Conservation Board for August 3rd, 2020. First item up would be roll call.
Okay. Member Hill,
Here.
Member Hawk,
Here.
Member Nesberg,
Here.
Member Hausauer,
Here.
Member Lucas,
Present.
Member Massey,
Here.
Member Hazen. Michelle, you're here. Raise your hand.
Don't put your sounds on, Michelle.
Okay.
Sound doesn't-
Member Warner. Still not on? Okay.
He's on. He's
Oh, is
on.
he?
I just think
Oh,
it's-
there's Bill. Okay, he's just
This
muted.
way.
So Bill is here. And Chairman Reeves.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, next item up would be adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Next item up would be the announcement. Sal?
All righty. Give me a second, as this is my first time reading this.
Sure.
Cal, this
Yeah.
is Elizabeth Pouillet for virtual meetings. All of the votes have to be roll call.
Okay.
Makes sense.
All right. So we need to do the adoption of the agenda as a roll call.
Yeah.
Okay. Jay, can we do that again?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Somebody wants to make that motion?
Motion.
Okay, I need that motion again for adoption of the agenda.
Second.
Kyra?
Okay.
Give me a second.
Okay.
Second.
Member Hill,
Yes, I support the motion.
Sal, you could just say
You're
our
on
last
mute.
names. He was
Hawk?
unmuted.
Yes.
Nesberg,
Yes.
Hausauer,
Yes.
Lucas, Massey,
Yes.
Hazen,
Aye.
Warner,
Aye.
Chairman Reeves.
Yes.
The announcements. Section 30-3.5 of the Land Development Code establishes the Historic Preservation Board, including its composition and duties and authority. The Historic Preservation Board procedures are set forth in Section 30-4.2G of the Land Development Code. Appeals of the Historic Preservation Board decisions are to the City Commission and must be filed within 14 days from the date of decision by the Historic Preservation Board, is reduced to writing and served by certified or registered mail. The appeal procedure is specified in Section 30-4.28G of the Land Development Code.
Thank you, Mr. Camillo. Next item up would be approval of the minutes. And
I'd like to offer an amendment to the minutes. I noticed that there was nothing in the minutes that reflected our conversation about the solar panels and wanting more information from the city attorney. There was no mention of it at all in the minutes, and I'd like the minutes to reflect that we had that conversation and we are waiting for more input from the city on what our role is going forward.
thank you, Member Hausauer.
I second approval with Elizabeth's additions.
Okay, we have a motion and a second then. Sal, roll call.
Member Hill,
Aye.
Hawk,
Aye.
Nesberg,
Aye.
Hausauer,
Aye.
Lucas,
Aye.
Massey,
Aye.
Hazen,
Aye.
Warner,
Aye.
Reeves.
Aye. Okay, next item up would be old business. And there is none, so I guess new business.
Okay.
All righty, I'll take it from here, Sal. That
Okay.
way you're not trying to multitask. In there. All right. Petition HP-20-02, Bill Warner, the Aiken Designers, agent for Greg Allard and Glaucia Lima, owners. Certificate of appropriateness to construct a 420 square foot accessory dwelling behind the primary structure located at 818 Southeast First Avenue. This is a contributing structure within the Southeast Residential Historic District.
Okay, and I'm going to need to share my screen. You guys see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Great. I love it when technology works. So good evening. My name is Sal Kumela, the Historic Preservation Planner for the city. This is a property in the Southeast Residential Historic District. It has a zoning of U3. The applicant is seeking to construct a 420 square foot accessory dwelling unit. It'll be located behind the primary structure. The unit will be 1 story in height and will feature cementitious siding, asphalt shingles, clad wood windows. The roof will feature the same style, which is a hip and same pitch as the contributing primary structure. The proposed accessory dwelling unit is designed to reflect the design of the primary structure. It will be located at the northeast corner of the parcel behind the primary structure and will not have a visual impact on the property from the right-of-way. The structure would be differentiated from the historic contributing structure by its use of modern materials such as the cementitious siding and the clad windows, and would not cause damage to the contributing structure if removed in the future. Here is the site plan. I will note you'll see 2 accessory structures there. The proposal is only for the one on the right in the farthest corner there. The other one is, I guess, something they're proposing at a future time. This is the floor plan of the accessory dwelling unit. Here are the 4 elevations. Staff finds that the requested action as presented is consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards and the Historic Preservation, Rehabilitation, and Design guidelines, and staff is recommending approval of HP 20-02. Thank you.
What's the deal with the second building? What do you mean another time?
Well, the owner is contemplating 1 or more additional units, which would be permitted under the zoning at a future date. But this was to display why it is in the extreme northeast corner.
Just to be clear, it's only the building to the right of your screen that we're talking about tonight.
Okay. Any other board comment?
Is there any kind of a setback variance for that? Or is it just,
No.
no? Okay.
Okay.
My
Any
only,
further comment?
yeah, just looking at the paperwork, Bill, you might want to notice that the affidavit isn't signed or notarized at the end, if that's important.
It's digitally signed. Yeah, but both of the owners digitally signed.
Yeah, once again, I just don't know if you need notary, like with this pandemic going on, maybe there's no rules at the moment. I'm just letting you know for paperwork purposes. Personally, I will happily recommend that we approve this.
Okay.
Second
Is
that
there a-
motion.
Okay.
Let
Thank you.
me, Sal, let me be more clear, please. I want to approve HP 20-02. Thank you.
We have a motion?
We have a motion and we have a second.
Who was the
And,
second?
Jay, I believe
Hill.
Jay.
Member Hill.
Okay. Okay. Member Hill?
Want me to read?
Well, first we may need to open it up for public.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yep, that's next. Okay, is there?
Board members, you don't have any public comment on this item at this time. Thank you.
Okay, no public comments, so that's up to you to do roll call, Sal.
Okay. Member Hill?
Aye.
Hawk?
Aye.
Nesberg?
Aye.
Hausauer?
Aye.
Lucas?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
Hazen?
Aye.
Warner?
I recuse myself.
Oh, yes. Reeves?
Aye.
Passes.
All right, I'll read the next item. Petition HP-20-14, Ryan Duffy, agent for Michelle Abrazinskas. Certificate of appropriateness to replace a 6-foot wood privacy fence and install a 5-foot aluminum fence at front and side yard located at 610 Northeast Boulevard. This is a contributing structure within the Northeast Residential Historic District.
So this property was built in 1928. It is a contributing structure. The zoning is RSF 3. This case is actually kind of a continuation of a case. You've heard part of this case before. The applicant had applied a couple of months ago for a fence, and then the current applicant, who's the current agent, has a contract pending for the purchase of the property to do something slightly different than what was presented from the original owner. So the applicant is seeking to replace 30 feet of wood stockade fencing at the rear of the property. It's replacing fencing that's already there that's damaged, and installing 5-foot black aluminum Master Halco Independence 3-rail spear top fencing at the front and side yards of the property. Although the proposed fencing is appropriate in material and degree of openness, exceeding 4 feet in height on street elevations is not in keeping with the traditional scale of front yard fences in the district. The proposed height of the fence would not be compliant with the Historic Preservation, Rehabilitation, and Design Guidelines found on page 85, or the Secretary of the Interior Standard number 9. This is to show you what the fence would look like. And on this sketch is where the fence would be located. If you can see the cursor, at the rear of the property is where the wood fence is that would be replaced. And it would meet up there with the new aluminum fence, which would then circle around the front of the property back to the front of the house here by the driveway. It would have 2 gates located here, and it would be, I believe, 1 foot off of the sidewalk, so it's not directly up against the sidewalk. Here are some photos of the property. Staff finds that the requested action as presented is not consistent with the Secretary of the Interior Standards and the Historic Preservation, Rehabilitation, and Design Guidelines. Staff is recommending approval of HP 2014 with the following condition: that the fence be no higher than the 4 feet allowed at the east front and south side elevation wall planes. Thank you.
I would agree with that. 4 feet.
Here, yeah, 4 feet, no higher.
4 feet for me. Well, at the appropriate time, I would move staff recommendations.
I'm wondering if do we talk now, or do we wait until you guys are finished deliberating? I wasn't sure. We're supposed to kind of not. Michelle. I'm the person that's proposing the fence. So I wanted to talk some about why we were interested in a 5-foot fence versus a 4-foot fence. But I wasn't sure when I should speak about that. Sorry, it's my first meeting, so I just wanted to know the proper protocol. Thought I would jump in.
No problem.
Yes, I mean, you as the owner, we can hear from you now.
Okay, great. So yes, thank you for having me on here today. I'm really excited to be in the neighborhood. We moved here from Phoenix and have been here for about 2 weeks now. And are really excited about the neighborhood. It seems like a great community and the duck pond is beautiful. We're proposing the 5-foot fence because, you know, for safety and security of the property, especially being at a relatively heavily foot trafficked intersection with lots of people going by. That's one piece, as well as our neighbors next door have a 5-foot fence with the railed spear top as well. And so for aesthetic purposes, we thought it would promote great continuation to have it be the same height as our next door neighbor. And so we went out of our way to find a design that looks just like theirs, that it would match up really nicely with the neighbors. And I have a picture of the neighbors on my computer if you want me to pull that up. And we've also seen some other fences around this height in the neighborhood as well, the black aluminum type of fence. And we're proposing 5-foot instead of 4-foot because our contractor mentioned that the 4-foot fence, the spear top, can be a little dangerous at the top of a 4-foot fence because people might cut themselves on it. And so a 5-foot fence is safer than a 4-foot fence with the spear top. And we also, in the future, see ourselves putting a deck in the back, like a nice little space where we can hang out. And so, you know, being able to use the yard and maximize yard space and have it look really nice with future landscaping and things like just want to, you know, make the yard aesthetically and work towards that. And we also have 2 dogs, and so want them to be able to use the yard as well. And so having them within a fence is helpful. Can, when we're home, you know, spend time in the yard and be able to utilize that instead of needing them to take them out on a leash every time we go outside. Yeah, and that's.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Back to board comment.
I believe that the fence referred to is to the south in terms of neighbor. It is well back from the sidewalk and almost, I mean, it's well into the shrubbery. You don't even see it. This would be to go to 5 feet at the sidewalk in this very conspicuous location, I think would be an unfortunate precedent.
I would agree that I feel that 4 feet is more appropriate for the neighborhood. I'm sorry, all your comments are well understood. I think the fence to the south side is also guarding a pool, if I'm not mistaken. They have a pool in that yard. But 5 feet, 1 foot off the sidewalk is just, I feel, is too imposing, and I think we need to stick with the 4-foot rule, which is in place for fences that run along the front of the property.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone
else?
As for your concern with the safety of the spear tipped fences, I don't know how the other board members feel, but you could just not have the spear tip. It breaks a little bit with the continuity, but it would still be a similar style if it were rounded on the top, say.
Yeah, we just wanted to try to prevent people from reaching over the fence to pet our dogs. And we feel like a 4-foot fence, people might reach over and pet them. I sent a picture of my dog. He gets raved about on the street because he's very cute. And so we're kind of worried about people being able to like just reach over and pet our dogs. I have a 60-pound dog and my partner has a 55-pound dog. So we wanted the fence to be high enough that we wouldn't have to worry about people reaching over to pet them or them getting out.
I
Okay.
guess I have a comment, like with the fence in itself too, couldn't people just reach in just as easily? Like, I mean, because it is, I mean, I'm just wondering if like with the 4-foot fence, if you could also create a screen of like landscaping on the inside or the outside of the fence that would then create even more of a buffer between, you know, for the dogs and for, you know, between people, and whether, I guess if you did it on the outside, it might hide it. I'm just trying to envision how the neighbors have it there, but it just might be another block.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the landscaping idea is a good idea. I think that could help for sure.
Another comment might be if you were more than a foot in, or needless to say, not on the line, in terms of fence location, it would represent an intrusion onto the property for someone to come onto it and reach over the fence.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. That's helpful.
All right.
And try to understand, this is in terms of a, might otherwise set a precedent for future applicants without regard to their pets and people's interest in petting them.
Okay. Any further board comment? Okay. Any further? Okay. Motion on the item?
We also had our contractor on the call, but I'm not sure if there's much for him to say about this, but just noted that he also, I don't know if you guys have any questions for him, but I don't think there really are any, but just wanted to mention that.
Okay,
He
thank
can
you.
be available to the board to you all if you need him, I guess is what I was trying to say.
Okay. All right.
I will
Any
move.
board?
I'll move to approve HP 20-14 with staff recommendations.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further comment from the board? Any board? Okay. Is there any comment from the public?
No, sir, there isn't.
Thank you very much.
Can you guys
All right.
can you guys repeat what happened? Sorry, is it
We have a motion and a second. Is there any?
Oh, okay.
Sal, would you like to
With
explain
staff
process?
recommendations, Michelle.
Oh, okay.
Is there any comment from the public? Thank you very much. Sal, would you like to?
Must be 6 o'clock.
Thanks for the time, Bill. Okay, now that the bell is tolled, is there any further board comment? Are we ready for a vote? I'm not hearing anything, so I assume so. Sal, would you like to go ahead and do roll call?
Sure. Member Hill,
Aye.
Member Hawk,
Aye.
Nesberg,
Aye.
Hausauer,
Aye.
Lucas,
Aye.
Massey,
Aye.
Hazen,
Oh, I'm muted. Aye.
Warner,
Aye.
Reeves.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next item, petition HP 20-40, Doug Nesbitt, Atlantic Design and Construction, agent for Andrew Martin and Sarah Farmery, owners. Certificate of appropriateness to construct an accessory dwelling unit, swimming pool, addition, and associated modification to the side setback. located at 633 Northeast 6th Street. This is a contributing structure to the Northeast Residential Historic District.
So this property, according to the Sanborn maps, was constructed in 1917. The property is zoned RSF 3. It's a contributing frame vernacular home. It's one of 5 identical adjacent houses. The applicant is seeking to construct a number of new elements as part of the rehabilitation of this contributing property, including a 2-story addition at the rear of the primary structure, construction of a carport at the south elevation, demolishing an existing non-contributing shed, constructing a 2-story garage accessory dwelling unit of approximately 495 square feet, and constructing an in-ground swimming pool with screen enclosure. The applicant's also requesting a modification of existing zoning requirements to allow for the carport to encroach 4 feet into the side yard setback. Here is the 1922 Sanborn map, where you can see the footprints of the 5 identical homes on Franklin Street. At this point, there was very minimal changes to them, so they all pretty much appear the same, with their 2-story section, their front porch, and their 1-story rear porch.
There is no 2-story section, Sal, on those houses.
Oh, sorry, that's a 1-story, yeah, 1-story porch, 1-story home, and the bump out in the back is what I meant. The contributing primary structure, which was constructed in 1917, retains its original footprint, as is common with historic homes. That original L-shaped porch at the rear of the home has since been enclosed. Although the rear of the home has been altered by the enclosure, the original form of the home is still discernible, and a clear evolution of the structure is visible. The proposed new 2-story addition represents a significant alteration to the original form of the rear portion of the home, both in layout and loss of historic fabric. As the addition is located at the rear of the home, the proposed work will have a negative visual impact, or I'm sorry, the proposed work will not have a negative visual impact from the front elevation of the property. The proposed addition does not comply with Secretary of the Interior Standards numbers 2, 3, 9, and 10. Proposed accessory dwelling unit garage will be located at the southeast corner of the property behind the primary structure. Although a portion of the structure will be visible from the right-of-way, it will not have a negative impact on the property or character of the neighborhood. It will be constructed utilizing materials compatible with the primary structure. Staff notes that the south and east elevations of the ADU have minimal fenestration, which visually creates a great deal of mass to the structure, and that the massing of the structure could be lessened on these elevations by the addition of additional architectural features and articulation. Residential swimming pools were rare during this home's period of construction. The addition of swimming pools is a common amenity sought to take advantage of Florida's climate. Although permissible through the current historic preservation, rehabilitation, and design guidelines, screen enclosures represent a modern evolution in swimming pool design and should be discouraged. A modification of setbacks is also being requested to allow for the construction of a carport at the south elevation. Given the openness of this type of structure, staff finds that granting this request would not have a negative impact on the contributing structure or the character of the neighborhood. Here are the elevations. This is existing. No, this is the actual change, sorry. Here's the addition, what it looks like from the side.
No.
No, that's the
that's existing.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, sorry, that's existing. Here are photos of existing. And again, this house matches the other 4 properties on this block. Originally started out identical. Here are the elevations of the proposed. You can see in the background the accessory dwelling unit. This is the proposed carport. This is from the rear of the property. Again, talking about the massing of the 2-story wall. There's very few windows on the structure or any articulation, so it could be improved in that way. Here are shots of elevations of the sides of the property. And as you can see, the change has a large impact on that rear portion of the home. It doesn't change a lot from the front of the property, but it does have a large impact on the rear of the property. Here's the site plan. The shaded parts you're seeing are the new proposed two-story remodel, the carport, the accessory dwelling unit, and the pool. And with that, staff finds that the requested action as presented is consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards and historic preservation, rehabilitation, and design guidelines, and recommends approval of HP 20-40 with the following conditions. One, approval of the demolition of the existing shed. Two, approval of the construction of the accessory structure with modifications to mitigate the massing of the blank elevations. Three, to approve the swimming pool and screen enclosure, but for denial of the alteration of the rear structure of the rear of the primary structure, as it does not meet the Secretary of the Interior standards.
Okay. Do we have any board comment?
I wish to disclose that I was the selling agent to the current owners and was the architect to the property to the south. I happen to be particularly familiar with these units. I do have a concern about the impact to the neighbor to the south by the carport addition on the south side, and I concur with staff. I concur with staff in regard to recommendations in regard to the structure to the rear.
I have a comment as well. Can you hear me, Jay? This is Danielle.
Yes, I can. Yeah. Danielle, yes.
Can we scroll to the picture, the front of the structure?
Yes, I can.
Rendering.
Or proposed?
The proposed. Yeah, that one on the left. Sal commented that it didn't have an impact from the street view, and I disagree with that. I think it does have a significant impact in change of the structure from the street view. Where that second story of the garage is just not consistent with the the slope of the existing roof structures in the area. I think it's a significant change. Just thought I'd add that in.
I need to speak up as well, although I am the neighbor 2 doors south, and my home is one of the homes in the 5 that are identical. And I dearly love these neighbors. They're wonderful people, love their daughter, but I'm really struggling with this. This is a huge impact on this lot. The 2-story structure in the back, where there was never a 2-story structure before, a 2-story addition, second-story addition, wherein I thought we had to work within attic space with dormers and that kind of thing. This is just a 2-story addition. The screen enclosure and the setback. I mean, unfortunately, I have a problem with a lot of, I think we make a big mistake when we go down the road of approving setbacks every time someone comes for a setback, because next thing you know, we're going to be 0 lot line on some of these structures. And I don't think that was the intent, and that disrupts the flow of the neighborhood. I mean, this is a 4-foot change to the setback, to the property line. That's a lot.
Jay, I have further comment as well. When we discussed the house, a few houses south of Liz that's under construction right now, that's been under construction for quite a while, they requested to put a second story on, and we denied them, I believe, because of the roof structure that was similar to the one that this house is trying to approve. So we set precedent by saying no to that house, and if we accept this, we're doing the opposite of what we said, I think it was 2 years ago, on the same street, 3 houses down.
It's also the same builder, both properties.
Yeah, I have a couple things to say. one, that I think the owners are significant contributors to the neighborhood. I think they're a very positive force in the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's any disputing that. I do have considerable concern about the viability of the builder in this instance due to the abandonment of the project just a couple of doors down.
This is Doug Nesbitt. I'm with Atlantic Design. I'm the builder on this and the agent for this project. If I can respond to that, if now's an appropriate time, Mr. Chair. Okay. So I appreciate that. We are no longer the builder on the project to the south. I would think it'd be a real issue if we were to hamstring this project we're looking at tonight by looking at the agent and looking at the person who's responsible for that project. We did submit that project. We were the agent for that project, but we are no longer the contractor on the project. And I don't think that we should be held responsible, or that this project that's on the meeting agenda tonight should be part of that discussion. That's just not fair to the applicant we're looking at this evening. I just want to put that out there. I also have plenty I'd like to talk about with tonight's project, but I'll wait for the board to finish their comments.
That addition on the back end just looks really wonky. Yeah, I couldn't approve that, even if I was given the opportunity.
I agree that the addition on the back is unacceptable. As far as the other things, the demolishment of the shed, that it is non-accessory, totally fine. As far as the carport, I agree with Elizabeth that we can't be allowing that kind of setback change. And as far as the pool and the proposed two-story garage and apartment, we have no information about that other than the site plan. And I don't think we should be even allowed to vote on something we have no information about.
The structure in the back, like, is it a garage? Is it just like a mother-in-law suite? Like, what is it exactly? Because
I've seen many of those go in that almost went in with really bad results.
that's just what I'm wondering. And like the other thing too, Sal, if you're scrolling up, like this picture here where it has it in the actual like view from the right of way. I mean, like, is there a way where they could move it, or like, I mean, like I said, I don't like this as it is, but I'm just kind of like, ugh, this is like, yeah, it's too much for me.
Yeah, thus far, I totally agree with what Kira said on all parts. And this is going to be super complicated because there's 5 different things that we're talking about. So Jay, I'm not exactly sure how you want to go about voting on this, but I do agree about the swimming pool as it's just laid out, that I don't see how that applies or how it would help preserve the historic preservation of this neighborhood to have this swimming pool. Yeah, demo of a building that's non-contributing, totally fine, but the rest of it just at the moment does not meet the guidelines.
I agree. I don't like the second story. I don't like the screened pool. I don't like the setback.
If now's appropriate, I could respond to some of those comments, but just let me know when. This is Nesbitt again with Atlantic Design.
Yes, please.
I want to just go back and we can share, actually, we have a 3D model of this that I can have my associate share. If you can let, I'm not sure who it's appropriate to talk to, but to have Sam Craigle be as a participant I think I gave you the link earlier to his email. And he can screen share his model so that we can get that on the screen, and we can show you maybe parts of what we're looking at here as I talk, if that's okay.
I think a 3D model would be helpful.
Sure. But to begin with, I think it is a little maybe misleading to have just that large from the elevation, from the street, because it does show the large garage in the back. There is another 2-story garage just a couple doors down. There is a 2nd-story addition to a very similar house directly to the south of this house. Obviously, these are slightly different, but those are both directly in the neighborhood. There's also another 2-story addition just around the corner from this house. So as far as massing and precedent of this type of addition, this has definitely been done in the neighborhood in the past, in a very close neighborhood. I think that my client would be open to, some changes if we can't come to a spot where everything makes sense here, but, including maybe roof pitches on the garage, the portico size. I think we're definitely amenable to changes if that's what we need to go through to make this approvable. We certainly are trying to keep the nature of the home intact. We've gone certainly out of our way to keep the house the same from the front facade, especially the existing facade of the street, as well as the 2 ends of the main structure of the house closest to the street. Those will be intact, almost no changes there. We've intentionally kept the roof pitch low in the back to allow for that 2nd story and to keep it below the pitch or below the ridge of the original structure, which I think is very important, so that it's not taking over the house from the front view of the street. Were you able to share the screen with, I'm not sure who is controlling the panelist participation, but Sam at atlanticd.com needs to have panelist participation to be able to share his screen.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Chasoulier. Sam, as he is now a panelist, he should be able to share his screen. If he's not able to pull up the presentation, he can email it to me and I'll pull it up for him.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Yeah, I hope the screen share would be, if Sal could stop sharing his screen, then we could.
Yes, yeah.
That's the issue there.
There you go.
Okay, hopefully we can get on now. So this is more of like a street view, right? Rather than a strict elevation, just to kind of show from the street that you can't, if you're standing in front of the house, you won't necessarily see the addition from the back. Again, from the street, and those are pretty tight lot lines there, as we already discussed. It's not that visible from the street. This would be a pretty wide perspective. This would, that's basically in front of the neighbor's house. So I think that those elevations are somewhat misleading in the sense that it looks really big, but it would not actually take over the mass of the existing house. These are, of course, from the back here, these are perspectives that no one could actually have. You can't, except from the air. But just trying to give you an idea of what the actual size of the addition is and how it relates to the mass in the front of the house.
Where's the pool?
The pool is directly behind that. There you go. So that's more of a view from, it's actually not in that model, but you can see where the screen room would be, but the pool would be directly underneath that screen room. In that back garage, someone was asking about the uses there. The downstairs is a garage and a small exercise room and an interior staircase. Try to do our best to keep the stairs inside rather than outside, just as a, obviously for sustainability and, you know, trying to keep that as something that we can build, but also for just the view of not seeing an exterior staircase. The upstairs is a mother-in-law apartment type apartment. It's just a room with a small kitchenette. You know, I think that, like I said, that our client is definitely amenable to changes as directed by the board. If there's, you know, if we'd rather see that roof on the garage changed, so it's, you know, not as obvious that that's a different roof pitch. You know, I think we're open to that. Like I said, if we have to do something different with the carport, those are certainly on the table. We don't want to be in a position where we're losing this whole project for something that we're willing to change. So, you know, I just want to let the board know that we're amenable to suggestions and changes to make this more approvable. I don't know if anyone has any questions after that. If there's anything specific that I didn't address too, you know, I'll go back one time to just because it was mentioned down the street that they're, you know, we're no longer the contractor on that property. And, you know, I really hope that the board would be able to separate those two projects. Those are not the same client. It's not the same house. It's not, you know, they're very different. So, and like I said, we're no longer associated with that, unfortunately. I would very much like to finish the project, but that's not what the owner and the owner's budget had in mind. So Sam's pulling up now a couple just examples of, these are in the very same block. The house directly to the south of us also has a 2-story addition in the back. And just around the corner on 6th Avenue, there was a house, I don't know how long ago that was, but there's a 2-story addition on that house in the back as well, with clear story windows and a secondary roof pitch above the first roof pitch. So very similar in look, if not in size, to what we're proposing. Also a couple 2-story additions. You can see 625 there has a 2-story garage apartment in the back. Same thing at 614, 716 Northeast 7th Street, 524 Northeast 2nd Street. Those are all 2-story garage apartments that are pretty similar in size and scope to what we're talking about.
I have a comment when it comes back to us.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to talk through any specific details. The owners are also on the line if there's any questions directly to them. So I can close my remarks here if you want to comment, but I'd certainly hope that the board would be willing to talk through some of these details to see if we can't get to a place that's more appropriate for what you'd like to see, and also that will fit our clients' needs and wishes, and, you know, hope to get to a place where we can move forward. So I'll stop there.
May I speak as the owner or one of the owners?
Sure.
Sure. I was only going to say that I think, as others have noted, we are very committed to this neighborhood. My mother grew up at 620 Northeast Boulevard. My family still lives in the area. My parents, my grandparents still live down the street. We are extremely committed to being in this neighborhood and improving the value, and you know, want to continue to see it prosper. So we're not looking to do this and move on out. You know, I'll say about the garage apartment, it sounds like, you know, as if we were trying to turn this into some other thing. We have an adult son who ideally we would be able to accommodate his needs in a way that he could live with us, but independently. I also anticipate that my parents who are aging and eventually may need to be able to be closer to us. So I would like to be able to have a space that could accommodate them. That's all.
This is Doug Nesbitt again. I just had one other comment, is that you know, this is very short notice for us to know of the staff's recommendation. I found out today that staff is recommending denial of this portion of the project. So I'm not sure if the board's aware of that or not, but you know, I would say we're a little bit less than prepared to offer you know, other examples of what we feel like this has happened, and you know, and to offer changes to design that the board might feel is more appropriate. So we have not really had that opportunity to do it. I guess that's what I'm looking for, if I have from board comments, to make sure that we can come up with something that's approvable for Sarah and Andy, and to meet the expectations of the HPB.
What's the width of the carport? Do you have to have the 4-foot setback change? And does it have to run all the way down? Or could the apartment in the back, could that building shift so that you're not overhanging the fence line the entire depth of the property? Because by the time you get the roof overhang, you're practically to the fence.
Yeah, that's correct. We're pretty minimal width there. Sam's showing 12.5 feet to the inside of the brick pillars. We can certainly get away with a little bit less, you know, but we have to have enough room to have a step and to get a car past. So we don't need more than that, but you know, also that came down to just the correct proportions for the roof. We had made it narrower to fit into the setback line, and felt like it just made the carport not look as well. So considering that is visible from the street, we wanted to make that a little bit wider, and the hip roof there works a little bit better.
Could the auxiliary building in the back be shifted over?
Yes, that could be shifted over. We don't really, that kind of, we made that change after the carport. So that's kind of driving that width there. That certainly could be moved over. It would impact the size of the pool, of course, and where the pool ends up in regard to the property line to the north, but that can certainly be pushed. You know, I think that if we got to a strict 7.5 foot setback, it would be, it might not work. But if we're talking about a couple feet there and that makes a difference to the board, then absolutely we could get it moved over.
I'd like to comment. So I'm just, you know, it's difficult for me to know, you know, obviously these houses are all very close together. You know, I went back and looked at the 620 house at Northeast 6th Avenue. The scale was smaller on that. I know that was actually a complete and total rebuild. It wasn't a renovation. So that one's a little bit different. You know, certainly I'm having trouble with the roof lines, and just that I get that the garage apartment is mimicking the addition, but I don't think that it's there's nothing that's tying in the original craftsman feel of the original house to the garage apartment. You know, so the garage apartment is mirroring the addition versus scaling some similarities between the original home. And again, I wish I, in this sense, had some guidance on the neighbors and what that's looking, because obviously it looks very blocky from what I can see from the elevations. I mean, we have limited windows here. Again, just being thoughtful of the neighbors. I know when we were approving the 620 Northeast 6th Avenue, there was a lot more land there. They had, quite a bit more land from the neighbors. And, so to me, looking at this, and I'm surprised, do we not have any neighbors here to comment? Other neighbors that are here? Because to me, that's the biggest loss, is the loss, because for all the surrounding single-story homes to go from, the single story, you're used to having a private backyard that, it becomes, now you are always going to have a neighbor sort of being able to look into your private backyard. I can think of a good case of that, and that was on, it was a build done by Solbach Construction. It was off of Northeast 3rd Street, just north of the boulevard. And, when there was a single-story home with a pool next to it, and it made it very difficult to think about living in that home when it went for resale, in the sense that they didn't have any more privacy for their back area. And so that's where it's just, without having some framework of what the surrounding buildings, how this is going to impact them, it would be difficult for me to make a decision on this right now. I don't feel like I have enough information.
I appreciate that. I would say that I think the main, at least that Sal pointed out in his presentation, towards the east side of the garage apartment, we're not encroaching on the setback on the back side. So, and of course we're open to if we need to have windows there or not. One of the reasons we didn't put windows there was because it was on the back of the house, and trying to keep privacy from right up against the property line. That's also one of the reasons we made the second story a little skinnier than, to set those windows back from the main walls of the house. So definitely we thought about that, and obviously with a 2-story, at some point you're going to gain the height to be able to have that that view. But we did move that second floor back and minimize its size and minimize the roof slope to keep it not visible from the street, and to allow it to be less visible from and less of a view of the neighbors the way it's designed. So I don't know if that makes sense, but we did address that, or try to address that in the design. And like I said, on the back of the garage, that was one area, Sal pointed out that's blocky. There are windows in the apartment, but even facing the neighbor's house, there's one minimal window there to try and keep privacy for both parties, really.
But not on the south side. That's right up against the fence line now.
That's correct. Yeah, and at some points, it's hard to achieve that. But
can you switch the gable on that roof so the gable follows the house instead of going the opposite way?
Yeah, I think we'd certainly be amenable to that. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I don't know, as long as you're tooling around with it while we're talking.
Sure. Yeah, that's the beauty of having the.
I was trying to find a picture of my house because I'm the one two down, but the difference is my carriage house was done in 1942. So it's not a new build, but I don't even remember which way my roof goes.
We do have a picture of that.
Mine goes like that.
And I think that'd be totally fine with us. I don't see any reason why we would not be.
I personally think that looks better because it mimics the front of the house. But even in the model, is the carriage house taller than the house?
Carriage, I don't know if it is actually. It's hard to. We can get an elevation there.
It doesn't have to be. I think it is right now.
Let me propose a thought. What about if the second floor of it was not full height, and it had a pitched ceiling that followed a pitched roof that was a little more steeper. So it became more of a half story, but higher walls.
Yeah.
Then it would give it more of the look of the main roof of the house, I think. I think what everybody's objecting to, and me as well, is the tall walls with the practically no roof sitting on top of it. And I think if it were more compatible with the house, the fact that it's already pushed way back to the corner, it's not really going to stand out. But I think based on the elevations we're seeing right now, it does stand out.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier too, just about the elevations. It's as you well know, elevations are always a perspective that no one can actually see and achieve.
Right,
So,
and you're actually standing down on the street, which is lower than the house, looking back. So I don't think it's going to be real glaringly apparent, but I think if the roof looks like it's from a different era of the house, it will make it kind of stand out.
Yeah.
Right now, it's got a 1950s, 1960s pitch on the garage. I think the rear end of the house is a whole nother matter, but the garage, I think, is something that could be altered and make it work fine.
One other thing that I would want to point out, especially with regards to how close the home is to setbacks and the lot lines, is a lot of that gets addressed too with fence and landscape, which I know necessarily isn't part of this presentation, but this will not be a house that's just sitting in a field directly next to the house. There's existing trees, there's existing fence.
Except now the fence is only 3 feet from your columns of the carport. I mean, I personally like the carport, but
we could definitely minimize the carport. I think we're trying to get to a point where it's functional, and I guess it wasn't anticipating that being as much of an issue, but I understand the point, and we're happy to minimize that. Obviously, there's a point where it becomes not functional to drive through.
Right.
But
that's the other thing. You don't know who's gonna, not everybody's gonna have a Prius. You want it to be functional. It is primarily open, so I don't see that as being a bigger issue personally. And I was just gonna say the other thing, it does kind of screen the garage visually from the street. But the garage itself is basically an accessory structure, even though it has a living structure on top of it. And being pushed to the back corners of the lot is the historic trend. That's the way the accessory structures were built in this neighborhood. So I think as far as pulling it away from the property line with such little yard back there probably doesn't make a lot of sense. I think you probably I missed part of this conversation. My computer crapped out again. But anyway, I think not having windows directly into the backyard, ground level is probably a good idea. And minimizing the windows facing that way on the second level is the other thing I think is important. But I think in this case, we've gone for many variances on projects I've done where we've had to reduce the back and side yard setback for an accessory structure. And I don't personally find that being an issue because it meets the historic pattern of the neighborhood. But like I said, minimizing that flat looking roof, almost flat looking roof on there, I think to me is the more critical issue, that you can see that from the street.
We're certainly open to that, and certainly open to minimizing windows on the second floor, especially adjacent to the property lines. I think that'd be fine, even, and not really affect the interior of that space.
I think too, if we're talking, I saw the shifting happening with the roof line. I think that was a nice change. That, I can think of several carports in the neighborhood that are very close to the property line. So I think we see a lot of that. I think I'm with Jay in the fact that the carriage houses, carports, all of those are very close on the property lines. Just the rhythm of this neighborhood is such that things are close. But, when we're building those new structures, I'll tell you, it is nice to be thinking of ways to mitigate, especially when we're building something new, because if the neighbors bought a one-story house, thinking that all the other surrounding houses were one story, that can be difficult. And I too, just for the sake of, I love lots of light and windows, and I can see that that's what you're trying to get. I will tell you the magic of a sun tube for allowing, so you still get your sight from windows that are looking into your property, but then maybe even some carefully placed sun tubes that just are letting the light from the sky come in that way is a nice way to kind of mitigate, when you want to keep privacy for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that. I certainly think that would be for that upstairs apartment. There's a small bathroom there. I think that's appropriate there. And we could look into that, either skylights or solar tubes for the upstairs addition as well.
I also was going to point out that the upstairs windows on the house that are above the carport are really the second, where the stairs are going up. So that's really more about light, not like you could actually stand there and look out.
Mm-hmm. If it helps, we can go back to the interior, like the floor plan, or even Sam's taking us inside the home right now, which is not necessarily, but it might not necessarily something you guys want to see, but it might help you understand what those windows are actually doing there. Just because they're in the hallway, so it's not into someone's bedroom and also not out of someone's bedroom. So,
what windows does the house currently have now?
They're wood windows. There's a little bit of a mishmash, but for the most part, it's especially in the front of the house, they're wood windows with the 4/4, and we would certainly keep that on everywhere we can, and then imitate that as best as possible with wood windows to match on the addition.
You'll be using wood for all of them?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I can't, certainly wood clad, and I imagine that they'd all be wood.
Would you be anticipating doing any kind of architectural detail like the corbels or anything on the apartment in the back? I mean, it's pretty vanilla.
We kind of intentionally kept it that way, but we're certainly open to adding, any details that mimic the front house. We're really trying to not try to match the front, because we didn't want to make it seem like that was a historic structure. But we're certainly open to the brackets or any of the overhang details, anything like that. We're happy to include if that's helpful. We were really trying to stay away from making it match too much, especially on the accessory dwelling, but we're certainly open to putting them in.
Well, I was going to say that's a good point of making it stand out and not match exactly. And I know that's the way the Secretary of Interior standards read. However, when you're introducing a new structure like this in very confined spaces in a historic district, you want it to be compatible as much as possible. So there is a fine line between replicating the detail and putting on an appropriate level of detail that does kind of continue the character of the house, which is what I think we wanted to do, just because we wanted to blend in the neighborhood and not really stand out as being 2020 addition to the project.
Sure.
Historically, bungalow and craftsman style houses, the ones that did have detached carriages and garages, were simple, much more simple than the actual houses.
Yeah, but I'm thinking in terms of roof line and maybe overhang. That's fairly generic stuff. Yeah, you'd want to stay away from battered columns and really specific details, but the rest of it, I think you'd want to follow as much as you could.
Yeah, certainly happy to overhang detail. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind for me is overhang details, and possibly even those. If we do have the gable end going that way, we'll include the brackets on the front of that.
Yeah, I think it would contribute in this case.
The 3D rendering was very helpful. Initially, it looked like the side of the garage was coming out of the addition that's attached to the house.
Right. I appreciate
that. Cleared that up for me. My concern still remains, though, with the dormers that you're adding on the second floor addition. I do believe a couple of years ago it was requested by the house up the street that we were talking about. I think we denied them the same request, and I just would really like for us to look at what we denied them to make sure we're not approving it on this house when we denied it on the other house. I just think that would be a poor thing to do as a board. And so that's really my remaining concern. Otherwise, I do like the project, and I would like to see the roof turned on the garage, but otherwise, I think it really does justice to the house.
Thank you. I will just say that I was the agent on the house down the street as well when it got approved, but again, no longer. But I don't believe we ever had a second floor plan for there, but the roof was taller at some point, and they did have.
Yeah, there was some windows or something in there that they initially asked about, and we wanted it smaller or something. And I just want to make sure that we're not allowing for larger windows that we said no to on that house. And so they adjusted what they were going to do in the house, and they wanted something similar to this. And I believe we said no.
Sure. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we're not contradicting ourselves. That's all.
I totally understand, and I appreciate that you're looking at the precedents. And I'm asking you to do the same thing here. But I don't believe that we ever had a second story plan for there, but there were bump outs with higher clear story windows, and that if you want to look at that, I totally understand.
It's possible for us to just clear that up and be able to hold it just to make sure that we're all on the same page, or is that not necessary, Jay?
Well, it sounds like this needs to come back for a review of some of the details and the changes. It sounds like the amount we're doing, this is Sal's call, but it sounds like the amount of changes we're proposing, it needs to be seen again, at least by staff, if not by the board. What's your recommendation, Sal?
I think if time frame wise, they can get it back to us for next month. I think I'd love to bring it back to the board with those changes that were recommended.
Okay.
I think we can do that. I would love, we went through a lot of stuff there. I'd love to get some specificity around exactly I think I have a pretty good idea, but just to make sure that we're on the same page with the board, and
okay,
if we can just go through a list, or if, I don't know if that's something we can do right now, or something that we'd rather, I don't know how to do that offline. I don't know if that's even possible at this point. But, just so we're making the right changes and getting somewhere where we can be in an approvable place. I would love that.
Sal, is that something you can email to them, just a little brief summary of the things the board's looking for based on comments tonight?
We can. I can go back and watch the video and summarize it. Or if the board would like to discuss now while everybody's still here, kind of just itemize a list. I think
it's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing we do when we make a motion. If we want to just go ahead and put those points together right now, we can take care of it now.
If I could say one last design point for the garage part in the back, as far as wanting more decoration. One of the few things that Craftsman and bungalow styled detached carriage houses had for decoration was their the garage doors. So you could definitely look like, it looks now like you have a regular one that just rolls up. You could look for a more decorative garage door, and that would really be showcased by the carport and almost framed in a very pretty way.
I would agree with you. Like one comment, specifications on the garage door. So if that looked more like a carriage door.
Carriage doors, right.
In a garage door, that would be very nice.
Agreed.
I vote for switching the roof line and lowering the roof line. That's me. And shifting it away from the side fence. But again, those would be my comments. And I have to be perfectly honest. Don't be mad at me, Sarah. I'm not crazy about the screen enclosure. I wish there wasn't a screen.
Although that won't be seen from the street, I believe, by the way it's drawn. Is that
Sure.
Am I correct?
I mean, I'm sure you can find a view where you can see what it is, but it's going to be mostly hidden from the street for sure.
Yeah, at least it's not the front porch.
That's correct. Yeah, there's no aluminum screening on the front porch.
Do we have any set precedent for screen enclosures on pools? Because I've never have us come across it. In the 2 years I've been here, I've never had one come up to us.
There's been a couple in the neighborhood in the past. One of them's been removed and the other one's next to Bill and I. And it's in pretty poor repair.
There are no bugs in Gainesville, Sarah. You don't need a screen. Keep that baby on a leash.
You have a screen.
What?
You have a screen.
On my front porch.
Yes.
Ooh, let's talk about that.
That's visible from the street.
Enclosures. In this one, it's not awkward. It matches the slope of the roofs and whatnot. So of all the enclosures that are proposed, if it keeps the structure of the roof,
yeah,
it's better than what I've seen in other places, and it's not jarring because it would continue on with the roof structure. So I really can't complain about that because I do understand the purpose, and it's not seen from the street. So that's mine.
Yes, and the one across from me, when it was done, we made them follow the rear gable line and mimic the structure of the house as far as that, and keep everything fairly dark so it disappeared. And that's really the best you can do.
Okay, well, I've made my comments. So anybody else want to add to the list?
I got a question. There's an addition on the back of the house, right? I want to make sure that there is that, or is that actually how long the house actually is?
Well, that's the addition.
No, that is all. The back of the house is all addition. Yeah, that's correct. So that's the existing structure on the back.
Okay.
And then the new addition would be from the main structure, and then that would be the small closed in, like, funny little porch there that would be gone. The other portion of the house there that's in definitely less repair than the front of the house would be gone, and then that would be rebuilt. We looked at trying to keep that, but to minimize the structure in the back, we had to lower the addition. So actually, when you're inside the house, you're going to step down into the new addition so that the roof line doesn't extend up past the original main structure. So
Is it going to be on piers?
This would be slab on grade on the back, only on the back. Of course, it'll be piers in the existing front, and if there's any slab showing there, we would try and mimic whatever we decide to do in the front where we're closing in under the house. We would try and mimic that with the slab there. So if it, I don't, right now it's open piers. There's not a lot to do with that, but if they decided to do brick lattice or something like that in that area, we would mimic that around. I don't think you're going to see the foundation very much in the back there.
It's like, like I said, I like what all my other board members said, but like I said, just even from seeing this 3D model, that addition on the back is just, it looks so wonky to me at least. And is there any other, maybe other designs you guys have thought about? Because look at that thing. It's just it looks like, judging by this model, it looks like the addition is like twice the size of the house.
It's about the same size as the front of the house as far as footprint. We've definitely gone through a pretty extensive design process to get to this point. We're taking in a lot of considerations, certainly among them the historic preservation guidelines, as well as trying to get to a point where the house works for Andy and Sarah to make it livable for them with their family. And she mentioned some of that earlier. So we've gone through quite a bit of time to get to this point.
Maybe because it's just so long and boxy.
That's really what I'm trying to get at, Elizabeth. It looks like, it looks too almost like how it's a cookie cutter, and I'm just like, ugh. That's just my scrutiny with that addition on the back.
Articulate about it, Michael.
What's up?
I said, way to be articulate about it. It's
sorry. I didn't mean to be too blunt. I wasn't trying to be blunt. I'm sorry.
I think
way to make the area over the staircase a dormer rather than just the gable roof out the back. I'm pointing.
Possibly, it definitely complicates the roof line there, but that might be. We're certainly willing to explore that. I don't know that it'll work, but happy to look at it.
I don't know if that's something that would work, but I understand what Michael's saying.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could break that, that would definitely help that linear aspect of it. But the thing to keep in mind is it's not, hopefully not going to look as bad as what the long elevations look like in drawing form.
You never see that elevation from.
Yeah.
You can't see it. It's actually something that doesn't exist.
Well, but you'll see it when you're coming down the street. You won't see it when you're standing right in front of the house, but driving down the street, you'll certainly see it.
You will get a glimpse of it, but you won't be able to appreciate it the way you can in a drawing.
Right.
So there's a lot of
You'll see the house next door.
If this model had the homes, the adjacent homes next to it, we would not be able to achieve the same views that we're.
That's what I'm thinking.
I believe there are some trees in the front and whatnot that would also be masking this. Am I wrong?
Yeah, you'd be able to see the two windows right above the carport, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
So this new concern about it being on a slab and the step down, and I think that feels a little concerning to me, just from how that's going to change the look of the exterior. I think that height is going to seem off. I mean, is there a way to have that house still be raised? I mean, is the slab necessary? What was
to achieve
the roof low, or?
Yeah, the reason we did that was to keep that roof low. I mean, I want to point out on this that we're looking at here. There's the house directly next door where the cursor is. We avoided that by having the house lower on the slab. That's certainly a possibility to have the, just like that, to come up a little bit and in elevation, but then you end up with the addition's peak being higher than the peak of the main home. So you end up with an addition similar to what we've shown here. Also, on the picture just above that at 620 Northeast 6th Avenue, you can see in that picture, you can't see at all the foundation of the addition in the back. And I know, Michelle, you pointed out that was a new build that started off as a historic renovation. They got to a point where it wasn't possible anymore, and redid it. But that footprint of the front house is the same as the historic portion, and you cannot see the foundation at all for the addition.
You need to lower that a little bit. You're getting a little lofty there. This is a lot of fun, I have to say.
I think the point of this is not that that's what we would do, other than that's the same pitches, and to get, if you raise the floor of it up, that's the shape of the roof you end up with, and that's we obviously have explored this, and that's not something that we liked or that I knew that anyone on the board would like. So.
Is Bill Werner no longer on the call? Because Bill did the design for Rick and Nicole's house. I think the difference is Rick and Nicole's is more of, it's more like a story and a half, because all they did was finish off the attic and add the dormers in the back to accommodate. They didn't really go off the back of the house. But Bill could speak to this. Did he get off the call?
No, he's on mute. He needs to unmute himself.
Bill, unmute yourself.
Okay, got it.
There you go.
What happened with the structure to the south is we continued the off-grade flooring, and it's a full, here we go again. It's a full 2 stories there, and it only has that very tiny little indication above, as Rick pointed out. There's just a little bit of a peak in the middle of that ridge that accommodates the addition to the east. Now it's off grade, two full stories, and there's a very slight, not the exaggerated impact that was just displayed.
Sure, and we certainly don't. We would not propose that. That's
and it's the full width of the structure as it presents itself to the street.
Where the slab is concerned, I'm all for the slab if it keeps the peak below the front of the house and less noticeable, and it's in the back half of the house. As long as you do what best you can to mimic the front piers, and make it somehow look streamlined, like you were saying, to try to mimic whatever you do with the piers in the front to add that to where the slab is so that it somewhat looks continuous.
Certainly.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I think the only place.
And whatnot, it's not going to be as noticeable as you think, because here you see nothing. Here is just a big open field, and in actuality, there's a lot of foliage and whatnot. Plus, the carport does some to.
Yeah, I think the only place you could see it is from the backyard or up the driveway. But I'm of the opinion that lowering it is a good solution to get the roof line down and hide the mass of the addition.
Yeah.
In this particular case, and in this particular house, I think Bill and I pretty much determined the front section was the original section. The back section was an all-in addition to begin with anyway. So
certainly that's what we're trying to preserve is the front section. You know, we're really trying to not touch either of those north or south facades of the gable ends, and certainly not the front of the home. You know, that will stay intact. It's in good shape, and I don't see any reason that anything there will change.
Yeah, I think I was going to say, I think what based on what Bill and I remember talking about on Rick's house when we looked at the structure of it, it actually looked more like an 1880s structure, which all of these could be, and they were renovated and extended later on, or if not moved, who knows?
Well, that area to the south, where the deck is, on my house, that was an original exterior porch, because when we went in and remodeled, there was exterior siding on the interior wall. So
Okay.
this is all porch that had been, and I think Sarah and Andy's house is the exact same as mine. Originally was the exact
The way these evolved was there were 4 rooms under that front gable. And you bought a big box and you chopped it up however you wanted to. In Rick and Nicole Stern's, there was in fact originally a fireplace in the center and a north and a south room. And then there was a breezeway on the north side, a breezeway between the house proper and the kitchen. And then it was porch to the south of the kitchen, and a later porch to the east of the main house, then the fill-in to make a sleeping porch. And that's how each of these typically evolved. That was the case with Rick and Nicole Stern's. And in that instance, where we really were able to get into it, the big box there in the front, this whole area was finished with beadboard on the entire inside. And you just divided it up however you wanted to. And then went from there. So these are all basically built the same. The hardware suggests they are definitely pre-1900. There was much original hardware surviving in Rick and Nicole's, and these were originally composed, in my opinion, as well as Jay's, pre-1900, and probably moved to the site. One other comment about the house on 6th Avenue where you don't notice the slab on grade, that's because they're of an unfortunate 6-foot barricade fence.
Yeah, it's a whole other issue. Well, so basically we're at Sal. I think Jay, everyone, we're basically asking these guys to go back to the drawing board a little bit based on the list and then come back again, right?
Yep. Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm for, in the intro, I mean, we do have a number of other items here. I'm in favor of a simple continuance with Sal summarizing our comments, and to facilitate coming back with a response. So I will move to continue, and I don't have the HP in front of me here, but I move to continue it to our next meeting.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, roll call, or does this need public comment?
No public comment at this time.
Okay, we're good. Right, roll call.
Member Hill,
Second the motion. I mean, aye for the motion to continue it.
Member Hawk,
Aye.
Member Nesberg,
Aye.
Member Hausauer,
Aye.
Member Lucas,
Aye.
Member Massey,
Aye.
Member Hazen,
Aye.
Member Warner,
Aye.
and Chair Reeves.
Aye.
Passes.
Thank you very much to the board. I appreciate all your input.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks for working with us.
you.
You guys.
And thank you, Sarah, for your dedication to the preservation of that house in the neighborhood.
And having such a cute baby.
Is that in the minutes?
Yeah, that's.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, what do we got next?
Sorry, I think I was reading it in and I was muted the whole time. I was on a roll.
Today's world.
All right, on to the fourth item. Petition HP-20-42, Hazel A. Jones, owner, certificate of appropriateness to construct 2 cypress screens at the front elevation located at 1031 Northeast 5th Street. This is a contributing structure to the Northeast Residential Historic District.
So this property was built in 1955, according to the property appraiser. Its zoning is RSF 3. It's a mid-century ranch-style house that's typical of housing of this period. The applicant is seeking to install an 8-foot by 14-foot cypress trellis and 4-foot by 2.5-foot cypress screen, both painted white. This proposal is coming before you guys because of the height and prominent location of this trellis. It is a landscape feature. Normally, you guys wouldn't see landscape features. They would be staff approvals. Staff finds that the requested action as presented is consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards and Historic Preservation, Rehabilitation, and Design guidelines. Here is a sketch of what that would look like. They also have a color rendering of what that screen would look like. They are doing some extensive landscape work, so this will be used to supplement that landscaping on the property. Staff is recommending approval of HP 20-42. Thank you.
Okay, any comment?
How far out is that screen from the front of the house? Do we know?
I do not know. It's up against the front sidewalk there of the house, not the front of the house. So it's pretty far back up against the house, but it's not touching the house or anything, as you can see.
Wait, so it's on the far side of the sidewalk, between the sidewalk and the house?
Can I
Yes.
talk about it? There's a porch that was there that we haven't done anything with, and it's even with the end of that porch. So it's right next to where the wrought iron comes down. It will be right beside it. And it's really, it's not really meant to be a trellis. The artist has drawn the greenery going up it, but it's really meant to be just the screen. And I patterned it after, Minnie, when I looked up what what people were doing at the time, I patterned it after ones that I found, in landscaping for that period.
If it's not going to be a trellis, then what is the purpose of it?
So I can show you if I can on my. Okay, I doesn't seem to want to let me do it, but when I started the design of when I started the lawn, I had, well, I don't know how to get it up there. This is the house from what it was and to what it is now. You can see these bushes were right in front of the kitchen windows. And I took all of these bushes out, and I just wanted a little bit of privacy in the kitchen and not to have any curtains or anything there. And also the hose and water spigot is right there. It's just, just decorative and a little bit of privacy.
And it said 2 cypress trellis screens. I see kind of the smaller one next to the garage. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And it seems to be a lot smaller. What's that for?
To hide the garbage can.
Okay.
Truly, that's really what I want to do with it. And it's a perfect fit right there. And my car is usually right in front of it. And, it's just easier than having to drag it around from the back. There's no real good place to put that trash can. And if you look at other screens like this, you can see that they're not, I really don't want it to be the trellis. I want it to be a screen. But it's not hiding the house necessarily. You'll be able to see through it and see the house. And, to me, it adds to the house as well.
If it's 8 feet high, then it must come all the way up taller than your front door by foot.
The door is up a step.
Oh, okay.
Right. There's a porch, a little porch that was already has always been there, and it's up.
So the top of the screen is at the top of the door from the street?
Be right about at the top of the door, right, and the top of the windows. So the screen in the drawing is a little short, but it'll be right up there.
I mean, it's removable and it doesn't change the structure of the house, and it has a purpose that I don't see any reason to deny it from my seat.
I agree.
I will comment that I think it's architecturally consistent for the style of the house.
Do we have a motion then?
Public comments?
Do we have a motion?
Or do we need to do public comments? Which
Well,
probably are none, but.
Well, we normally do public comments. Yeah. Do we have public comments for this?
Jay.
We don't have any public comments at this time.
Okay, no public comments. So do we have?
I'd like to make a motion that we pass HP 20-42. This is Nesberg.
Second.
As written, yes.
Okay, Sal, roll call.
Who was the second?
Kira.
Okay. Member Hill?
Aye.
Member Hawk?
Her telephone died. She's trying to rejoin via computer.
Okay, we'll come back to her. Member Nisberg?
Aye.
Member Hausauer?
Aye.
Member Lucas?
Aye.
Member Massey?
Aye.
Member Hazen?
Aye.
Member Warner?
Aye.
Chair Reeves?
Aye.
talk back now? Yeah.
I don't know, but I wish my garden looked like that flower garden.
It doesn't quite look like that yet. It's growing up though, and it's getting there. And you know, but that's beautiful, isn't it?
6th Street. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Jay and Sal, because we have a quorum, can we just move on? Because I'm not sure when or if she's going to be able to join.
I think so. You have enough votes to pass it.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to item number 5, petition HP-20-46, Bill Warner, the Aiken Designers, agent for Stephen John Howell, owner, certificate of appropriateness to construct an addition to the existing attached garage located at 1015 Northeast 6th Street. This is a contributing structure to the Northeast Residential Historic District.
The property that was constructed in 1939, according to the property appraiser. It is zoned RSF 3. The existing house is a 1-story early ranch built in 1939, featuring an attached garage. The applicant proposes to construct a 476 square foot addition to the east of the existing garage. The addition has been designed to match the scale and design of the existing home while materially differentiating it from the contributing structure. The proposed addition is sited at the rear east elevation of the home and will have no visual impact on the home from the front. The addition will feature smooth cementitious siding and Marvin Essentials clad wood windows with horizontal muntins to match the existing windows. And this floor plan here shows the home with the existing garage. As you can see, the new addition is tucked behind it. This is a corner lot, so the garage is actually accessed from the side of the house. Again, here's the existing and the new addition.
Where's the front of the house?
This is the street side of the house, the front side here. The front door is here.
Got it.
Yep. Here are the elevations and showing how it connects to the main structure. And staff finds that the requested action as presented is consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards and the Historic Preservation, Rehabilitation, and Design Guidelines, and is recommending approval of HP 20-46. Thank you.
Okay, do we have member comment?
Does the house have hardy board on it now, Bill?
The harmonious element or the element of continuity is that the existing block construction is a 4-inch block, and this being in addition to the garage, it is slab on grade, as is the garage, and we're using to distinguish it from the original, using hardy board at 4 inches to weather. So that's what you're looking at there. The roof pitch is the same as the existing construction will in fact be the same.
I guess my question is, why didn't we just, I mean, it seems like a very simple thing, but I guess I'm confused as to why you want to differentiate an addition such as this from the main house. Jay had one a couple months ago with an interesting block, and the addition was also blocked. So why wouldn't you just do the addition in block so that it matched?
In this instance, it was the owner's desire to distinguish this addition from the original in this particular manner, with the element of continuity being the element, the exposure to weather, and having the other element of continuity being windows of the same character as the originals.
And you can't see this from the street at all?
You have to, this, if we can go back to the site plan, just a bump there. You can see that you can only see it from the 10th place, or I forget now what it is exactly, there to the north. It's 5th Street. What is it there?
It's on the corner of 6th Street and 10th Place.
Yeah, okay, it is.
So where the cursor is, if you can see that, is
Yeah.
where the new addition will be.
Right. Now, the 10th Place is a very narrow street running east to west. And there's a lot of tree canopy right there on the corner where the cursor is. And so it's visually extremely subordinated to the house.
That street in particular has a lot of foliage.
No. No.
Hey, Sal,
Yeah.
Michelle just texted me that she was removed as a panelist. And she can't.
I'm back.
Oh, she's back. Okay, good.
Okay.
Thanks, Liz.
Hey, you're welcome, Michelle. I got your back.
I appreciate it.
Is there a picture of the actual house or no? We don't have a picture of the house?
I do not have that in the PowerPoint. No. You want,
I have a street view pulled up if you want me to share my screen so that you can see that.
If you would, please.
You guys probably just need to tell me to be quiet. I don't know why I have an opinion on this, but I don't know. Without seeing the house, I can't have an opinion on whether that looks right. I mean, I trust that Bill would do something that would look correct.
There we go. Okay, that's the 5th Street side. There's the front. This is opposite of where the proposed addition would be. At the top there, you see the 10th Place. We're turning the corner, going down the street. Okay, there to the left of the view you have right now, behind an 8 feet back from the plane that you're looking at, would be the wall of the addition.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, that street is very dense with foliage.
But that can always change, you know.
True, very true.
It seems like a fine project so far. My one question right now is, is it just an extension of the garage, or what's the purpose of it? I might have missed it.
Officially, it is a storage space. It may be occasionally used as an artist studio.
Thank you.
Okay, any further board comment?
Yes, well, I'll point out, well, Steve Howell is a very fine pottery artist. And would like to do more work at home.
Okay. Any further comments?
Yes, I'm having trouble. So this wood structure is on the driveway side? I mean, am I getting that? I'm just having a real hard time understanding the orientation here. Maybe I've got a picture, a street view of the house now.
It seems like even though the street view is the front of the house, it appears like they use the 10th Street or 10th Ave side more.
In front of the house.
Yeah.
It's around the corner.
Functionally, it's basically behind the house.
So I'm on a street view of the house. So you turn the corner. So if you're standing in front of the house, there's like you come around the corner.
It's 10th place.
10th place.
And then you'd be facing the garage door.
Facing the garage door, yeah.
That new addition sets back 8 feet on the left side of the garage and back.
Okay, so the garage is not touched. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is correct.
It's just hard to see. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Do we have a motion?
I'll make.
Motion to approve the project. Sorry.
Who's doing it?
So, Michael?
Yes, that was me, guys. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second it. It's Liz.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment?
No, sir, not at this time.
Thank you. All right, if there's no further comment from anybody, Sal, can you get us?
Jay, do you want Michael to spell out what we're approving? The HP blah blah?
Yeah.
If you would, it helps.
Absolutely. Here, let me pull it up, or maybe Sal puts it on the screen.
HP 2046.
Yeah, and so you'll see, guys, that I've included some language to help you make the motions. It's just some legal stuff. If you guys want to just start reading that and putting in whatever conditions you want, that helps. That I think helps make some of the motions.
Except
Okay.
I can't see it all because all our little pictures are over the text.
Oh, you can move your the strip of photos. Yeah.
I don't want to turn into a potato. Okay, there we go. I did it.
I will say, Sal, we used to be a lot better at saying the petitions when we were actually in.
Yeah, the whole
This is a
virtual
new thing. We're not normally this bad at saying the petition numbers.
A lot of details to manage on the screens here.
Yeah, should I start reading?
Yep.
All right, so I move to approve HP 20-46 without any conditions.
I second it.
Okay, Sal, roll call.
Hey, Member Hill?
Aye.
Member Hawk?
Remember, her phone died.
Oh, okay, yes. Nesberg?
Aye.
Member Hausauer?
Aye.
Member Lucas?
Aye.
Member Massey?
Aye.
Member Hazen?
Aye.
Chair Reeves?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I clock again.
It's 7:30. And I do recuse myself from this one.
All righty, moving to the sixth item. Petition HP 20-48, Jones and Salient owners, certificate of appropriateness for a re-roof with a change in materials to 26 gauge, standing seam, galvalume, mill finish, located at 516 Northeast 2nd Street. This is a contributing structure to the Northeast Residential Historic District.
So this is a property built in 1937, according to the property appraiser. It's currently zoned RSF3. The applicant is seeking to replace the roof with a 26 gauge galvalume mill finish standing seam metal roof. The roof currently, and I think there was an error that I misspoke in the, or mistyped in the staff report. I believe the roof is mixed. The roof of the top roof is metal. The porch roof is shingle. But they are changing all of it to the metal galvalume shingle, or sorry, metal galvalume roof. It is, of course, non-original material to the home. And the board has recognized the transitory nature of roofing materials and allowed for replacement of shingle roofing with metal roofing, the standing seam in design and natural and finish. And staff finds that the requested action as presented is consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards and the Historic Preservation, Rehabilitation, and Design Guidelines, and is recommending approval of HP 20-48. Thank you.
Okay. Board comment?
Looks good to me.
I do actually have a question for the board, maybe like in regards to this subject. So like if a house has a metal roof and it's in a historic neighborhood and it wants to change to singles, is that acceptable or not? That's one question I've always wondered being here.
I would say probably is acceptable because metal roofs, there were hardly any of them in our historic districts to begin with. That's just an opinion, but since originally most of these buildings had wood shingles, and then after that the wood disappeared, then they went to various other materials, one of them being metal. That would just be, it'd be almost a case specific type thing is how the board would look at it. But I would say that generally that'd be the direction that I don't think you could discourage somebody from putting a shingle roof on it if that's what it had originally. Sal, you may weigh in differently, but that's.
Yeah, I very much agree with that.
Okay.
That's a question I've always had. So thanks for answering it, guys.
Sure. Any further board comment?
Nope.
Do we have a motion?
A move to approve HP 20-48.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and just to ask, was there any public comment?
No, sir, there's not.
Thank you. Okay, Sal?
Member Hill?
Aye.
Is Member Hawkback?
Nope.
Okay. Member Nesberg?
Aye.
Member Hausauer?
Aye.
Member Lucas?
Aye.
Member Massey?
Aye.
Member Hazen?
Aye.
Member Warner?
Aye.
Chair Reeves?
Aye.
Passes.
Okay.
All right, on to the seventh item. Petition HP 20-49, Elliott Larkin, Larkin Reynolds 2 LLC, owner, certificate of appropriateness to construct a 2-story single-family dwelling with associated modifications to the front porch depth located south of the intersection of Northeast 3rd Avenue and Northeast 9th Street. This is a vacant lot within the Northeast Residential Historic District.
Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with you, I'd like to present HP 2049 and HP 2050 together. Since they're adjacent lots, they're identical homes.
Okay, that's fine.
So I'll go ahead and read the second one in as well if you want. Petition HP 20-50, Elliott Larkin, Larkin Reynolds 2 LLC, owner, certificate of appropriateness to construct a 2-story single-family dwelling with associated modifications to the front porch depth located south of the intersection of Northeast 3rd Avenue and Northeast 9th Street. This is a vacant lot within the Northeast Residential Historic District.
So this is two separate, we will vote on two separate cases, but I'll present them together since they are related and identical. These are two parcels that were recently created from a larger parcel. They are zoned U2, and they are currently vacant. The applicant is seeking to construct a 2-story single-family dwelling. There'll be about approximately 2,000 square feet under roof. The home will feature a stem wall construction and utilize hardy lap cementitious siding, architectural shingles, and single hung vinyl windows. The project is identical to its home next door. There'll be mirrored images of each other, and the parcels measure 36.5 by 100 feet deep. The homes will be accessed through a shared curb cut. The applicant is also seeking to modify the requirement for the front porch depth to be reduced to 6 feet from the 8 feet, which is required by the Land Development Code. And that's here in the Land Development Code table V-3 for for building frontage dimensional standards, which require a porch depth minimum of 8 feet. The proposed two-story single-family dwelling is compatible in scale and massing with the neighborhood, but staff notes that it lacks a level of detail that is characteristic of the district. The project could be enhanced with modifications such as more traditional trim around the doors and windows, simulated divided lights, foundation detailing and articulation such as false piers and infill, more traditional window proportions, shutters, porch railings, etc. The applicant is also requesting a modification of the requirements for the building frontage dimensional setbacks as outlined in LDC table B-3. The request is for a reduction of the front porch from 6 to the required, from the required 8 feet. 8 feet represents the standard acceptable minimum for front porch depths on new construction, as shallower depths minimize the functionality, rendering the porch more of a decorative element than a functional element of the home. Here are some 3D renderings of the property. Here's the site plan for both of those properties. You can see with the shared curb cut. As I said, they are the same house, but mirrored images. This is the 3D of the front and the 3D of the rear. So you can see, as I said, in massing and scale, they are appropriate, but staff recommends some work be done on the detailing that could make it better fit in with the neighborhood. Here are the elevations showing the sides and the front and the back. With that, staff finds that the requested action as presented is not consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards and historic preservation, rehabilitation and design guidelines, and is recommending a conceptual approval of HP 20-49 and HP 20-50 with the following condition. 1, the front porch meet the required dimensional standards, and 2, that the applicant consider any staff and board comments that we talk about tonight and return to the board at a later time for final approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any board comment?
Oh, well, you know I'm going to jump in.
I know you would.
I totally agree with staff. I think that Elliott can do much better and has done much better on other properties, and that this reminds me of the 3 little shotgun-looking cottages that got approved on 2nd Street in the Pleasant Street neighborhood that people are complaining about. I think that he needs to go back to the drawing board. This is a disservice to the neighborhood, these drawings. That's my opinion. And I agree on the front porch not being shortened.
Yes. Okay, anyone else?
What is the exact address of these? Because it's not in the staff report or the agenda.
Yeah, they're not currently addressed, which is why they're referenced by their parcel number.
You know that house, that big brown house that Kirk Reeves used to own on the corner of 3rd and 9th?
Vaguely.
Okay, so there was a little thin sliver of land that had an old school bus sitting on it that was for sale, and I'm assuming that's that parcel, right, Sal? And they people in the corner just put up a big stockade fence without approval too.
It's behind the main house there. It's been subdivided into 2 additional parcels.
But the driveway's on 9th. The driveway will be on 9th?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep.
But the house on the corner just put up a stockade 6-foot solid fence without approval.
I will look into that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm like the fence patrol. But yeah, you probably wouldn't have even noticed the lot, Kara, because it's just it's very small.
Yeah, I was trying to look it up on Google.
Okay.
It's good. We have a window police. It's good to have a fence police too.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any comments on these drawings?
Nothing, Michelle?
Did we lose Michelle again?
No, I'm here.
Hi, Michelle. Yeah.
No, of course, I agree. We can definitely do better than this. I can't see any sort of detailing at all.
bad.
I just don't think the weird porch on the back, I don't think we see too many of those on historic properties.
And then the
Like we're-
sunlight.
I mean, this is a main street coming into the neighborhood. So, definitely sort of,
They need to be prettier.
it'd be nice in general. 9th Street's cleaning up a little bit. They've done some good houses there recently. And yeah, I'm also just not clear. I mean, is there any sort of a parking requirement? I'm just sort of looking back because the house that was recently sold, these 2 parcels, I'm just not seeing. I mean, is there any sort of requirement to have parking here for any of these houses? I'm just not clear on where people are going to park.
But aren't they asking for a setback variance too for parking, Sal? Didn't I see that in there somewhere?
No, the request is for the porch.
Oh, I thought there was something
Setback smaller.
Am I missing it? Or it just feels like, because where these 2 parcels are, it feels like that was the parking, that was the curb cut for the house.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah.
So for the other, the original parent parcel, the corner lot, 835 Northeast 3rd Ave.
Yep.
That house is, we're going to be putting in a driveway on 3rd. That's the plan. So I don't have any details about it for you today because it's not a part of this, but as you can see where Sal's cursor is on that left side right there, we're going to be putting in our idea is to put in a driveway right there so that there's parking for that unit over there. And then there's also the street parking in front of it. So I'm not clear exactly what the requirement is for parking. But as far as the 2 new construction houses, there's going to be that shared driveway in the middle. And then there will be space enough for parking 2 cars side by side, 1 for each unit or 1 for each property. And that's
in the back then is where
it could be on the side or towards the back. It depends on what the owners prefer. We just tried to be consistent with the neighborhood and not have any kind of garage or anything like that. So just open parking. There's not going to be a carport or anything.
Okay, thank you. Any further board comment?
I just don't think we have enough before us to approve or make a decision.
Can I ask about the windows?
Yeah, yes. Please.
Particularly about these windows, would you prefer some kind of simulated light divider or something in between them, or are these, I'd just like some board input on these windows and what would be acceptable.
Well, I can tell you that looking at what went on across the street on 9th, they chose a unit that was visually inappropriate to the style of the house. It was kind of a prairie style, deco-ish kind of sash treatment that was totally out of character to the otherwise pretty decent work they did there. Muntins are not going to save what we have before us here. We don't really have any window casing detail. I mean, these just look like vinyl windows, which I find inappropriate to the historic district.
Yeah, there really isn't and there's really no detail on the plans in order to make decisions. That's what I feel, that there is not enough detail.
Right. One of the comments I would make is that divided lights, if they're simulated, Unless there's a good reason to put them, I would just go with the default, which is 1/1, because it is kind of the generic style of window in most of these districts. And the trim around the windows, the casing and all that around the doors, that's really more critical, I believe, as far as the appearance of the building from the street.
And that's where we don't have any detail on these drawings of any kind.
And what you want to do is look at what the appropriate size is and the buildings you're trying to be compatible with in the area around it.
There's a similar structure on 8th Street. I don't know the exact address, but it's between, let's see, 3rd and 4th. It's a, 2-story structure with 2 porches in the front. I don't know if you can pull Google Earth up so that we can get a street view of that house.
That was kind of a Key West that came before us a couple of years ago. That and street elevation was similar.
Yeah, and it has some detail in it that this house, could take some cues from.
Does anyone have the address on that?
I don't know, but it's very noticeable. It's a 2-story yellow house between 3rd and 4th. It's on 8th Street.
Okay.
On the east side of the street.
I believe that's the one where we approved the addition, right?
Yeah, there's an addition.
Addition.
Yeah. It has some nice porches and it has some other details that might help in this situation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further board comment? Okay. Well then, anyone like to make a motion on this one?
We have to have that language, so I'll make the motion if we have that language.
There you go.
So do we actually deny it or just continue it?
You can continue it, or one of the things I wanted to introduce to you guys was conceptual approvals, which is where you're not giving it final approval. You're approving something at any stage of its development and saying, yes, you're on the right track, but this is not the final, we need to see some changes. And so I'll explain more about that later, but if you wanted to do it conceptually, you could do it that way, or if you wanted to just continue it as a whole, you can do that also.
Are the two, can you conflate? I mean, is it one, are they the same thing? I don't want to do it.
Essentially.
Okay.
I think a simple continuance.
I'm going to continue it. I move to continue HP 2049 and HP 2050 pending design changes.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
That motion.
Who was that seconded?
Danielle.
Danielle, okay.
We had several. Take your pick, Sal.
I'm going with Danielle.
Okay. All right. No further comment. Any board comment on this one? I mean, public comment, excuse me.
No, sir. No public comment.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other comments, Sal?
Member Hill?
Aye.
Member Hawk still not back?
No.
Okay. Member Nesberg?
Aye.
Member Hausauer?
Aye.
Member Lucas?
Aye.
Member Massey?
Aye.
Member Hazen?
Aye.
Member Warner?
Aye.
Chair Reeves?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
On to the 9th item, petition HP 20-51, Timothy Guerin and William Birdsall, owners, certificate of appropriateness to construct a 1-story garage accessory structure and new fencing located at 825 Northeast 5th Avenue. This is a non-contributing structure within the Northeast Residential Historic District.
Thank you. So this property was constructed in 2007. The zoning is RSF2. The applicant is seeking to construct a 1-story, approximately 1,000 square foot garage accessory structure. The proposed garage accessory structure will be sited behind the non-contributing primary structure at the southwest corner of the parcel. The applicant is also proposing the construction of a black aluminum fencing with brick columns to replace the existing 36-inch Gothic top picket fence. The proposed accessory structure, as I said, is sited behind the primary structure and is compatible with materials, design, and architectural features of the non-contributing principal building. From the site plan here, you can see this is the primary structure. This is the proposed accessory structure situated behind it in the corner. Here is the existing picket fence. And then this detail up here is the new columns that match the stonework on the house with the aluminum fence lined up with the neighbor's fence that's already there. Here are the floor plan. Sorry?
Didn't we already approved this like 2 months ago?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember seeing this house.
You have seen this house.
It's a repeat?
This is a repeat. Yes, it predates you.
New to me.
Okay. What we decided to do was downsize it, and in downsizing, also make it 1 story as opposed to
I was going to say, because it was 2 stories before.
2 stories, and it was beginning to compete with the scale of the house.
Good.
And but wanting to downsize it, I kind of encouraged them to. We had plenty of yard to work with. Let's go ahead and put it on the ground and make it so.
I thought I was losing my mind for a minute.
No, you still got what's left of it.
What's left?
Well, and now I think you can only see the part that looks like a carriage house, not the other addition.
Nice.
Correct. You can
Correct, because it's tucked behind the
carriage house.
Yep.
And the guest quarters
Much
are
better.
minimized from view now from the street.
Okay, I do have to say, I still think it's weird to use brick with the fence instead of fieldstone. I don't get that.
Well, the situation is the house that was built in 2007 has a artificial stone, which is more of a stack stone.
Right.
And I think that's going to look good on the post columns.
But you don't think brick is going to look off?
The brick can look all right as long as it's not glaringly different in color. If it's consistent in color, it'll kind of minimize itself.
Okay. That makes me happier.
And that can be one of our staff recommendations, that the brick color is similar to the house color.
Are you okay
Yes.
with that?
The house stone.
The house stone color, yeah. Yeah.
Staff is recommending approval of HP 20-51.
I have a comment before you do that. There's a brick patio in the back of this house that's red and not consistent with this. And given that the garage is going to be in the back, I'm not sure if that they were trying to balance the color of the patio that's in the back with the garage. I just wanted to mention that.
He said that last time when it came before, he said that about the patio, but the patio is on a different plane. I mean, you can't see the patio from the street, so.
Right, I'm just mentioning it as a.
But I mean, if the brick is more the brownish tones, that would make me more comfortable than if it's red brick, you know? It's a cool house.
Yeah, drove by it the other week. It's a beautiful place. Okay.
I'd be happy to make a motion if there's no other comments.
Bill, you're chairing.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So no public comments? All right. I move to approve HPB case number HP 20-51 with the condition that the brick with the fence is similar in color to the stone of the house.
I second.
Okay, all in favor? Roll call, please.
Okay. Member Hill?
Aye.
Member Hawk is still not with us, I'm assuming. Okay. Member Nesberg?
Aye.
Member Hausauer?
Aye.
Member Lucas?
Aye.
Member Massey?
Aye.
Member Hazen? Member Hazen?
Lost Michelle again.
I think we lost her again.
We did.
Okay. Member Warner
Aye.
and Chair Reeves. I'm assuming you're recusing yourself?
Michelle says her computer disconnected, but she's here. But she still has to verbally speak, right?
Yes. But it still has enough yeses to pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we can't get Michelle back.
But we still have enough, don't we?
Yes.
We still have a quorum?
Yes.
Alrighty, on to item number 10, petition HP-20-55, Corey Hodes, Eastwood Construction, agent for TND Buildings, LLC, certificate of appropriateness to construct a 2-story single-family dwelling with associated modifications to the side setback, located at a non-address parcel in the 400 through 500 block of Northwest 6th Avenue. This will be a non-contributing structure within the Pleasant Street Historic District.
Hey, before we go any further, Sal, she got kicked off as a panelist again. So whoever's running the thing, if they can add Michelle back as a panelist.
Okay. So this project is a vacant parcel in the Pleasant Street Historic District, currently zoned RC. Here is where that parcel is located. The applicant is seeking to construct a 1.5-story single-family home of approximately 1,200 square feet that will feature 5-inch reveal smooth cementitious siding, 2/2 simulated divided light windows, architectural shingles, and cementitious trim. The applicant is also requesting a modification of the required setbacks. The required side setback for this parcel, which measures 30 by 84, is 5 feet. The applicant is requesting the modification of the west side yard setback to 3 feet. Staff finds that the design of the new building is compatible in scale, size, materials, color, and texture with the surrounding buildings and neighborhood, and is compatible with the character and feel of the district. Further, staff finds that the requested side yard setback modification is in keeping with the historic building pattern and character of the neighborhood and meets the requirements outlined in section 30-4.28 D2 of the Land Development Code. Here is the site plan, floor plans, and the elevations. And staff is recommending, staff finds that the requested action as presented is consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards and the Historic Preservation, Rehabilitation, and Design Guidelines, and is recommending approval of HP 2055 with the condition that the side yard west setback be reduced to 3 feet. Thank you.
Okay, board comment?
Stop. I'm starting to twitch. Can you go to the elevation?
Yeah, I'm wondering about the diagonal below the dormer. Looks a little weird.
Yeah, I don't understand the door placement. Maybe we need the floor plan again.
Yeah, so the front door is here. You'll see that that other porch and the other door is pushed back. In elevation, it really doesn't show that. But, if I can go back, here's the floor plan. So here's the front door, and here's that other door back from it.
It's 8 o'clock.
Good to know my clock is consistently wrong.
Or about 8.
Is this on piers?
This is, the porch is on piers. The rest of it's on a stem wall with a stucco finish.
So presumably hardy board.
That's correct. Yep. With a 5-inch reveal.
Why are there two entrances instead of creating a larger great room?
That's a question for the applicant.
Yes.
I mean, I get that. He wants to walk into the main room and then have a porch off the kitchen. It looks a little odd from the front, but because it's set back, maybe it's the same, you know, it's not as odd in real life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's set way back. You just can't tell that from the elevation.
No, I think it creates an engaging geometry there that, you know, I don't have a problem with that, those respective means of egress. I think there is a precedent for what they're proposing to do.
I guess my question is the porch with the door that leads into the kitchen, is that on piers or is that on stem wall? Because I would like to see that on pier too, if the front porch is on piers.
It looks like it's on piers.
Yeah.
That's secondary porch.
Yeah.
You know, this area has a very eclectic conglomeration of houses and architectural styles. And without, you know, seeing more more picturesque, detailed type images of it, of what they're really proposing, I'd almost say it looks too ornate for the few ranch styles and the shotgun houses in the area.
Really?
I don't think so.
But that could just be from the way it's drawn. You know, it could just be because it's so close together and small in this view.
Well, I think what we're looking at is such a stark contrast to what we just looked at in terms of detail. I think that's what you're reacting to.
I was more looking at the houses that are directly next to it. The one to the right is the ranch, and the one right next to it is a shotgun.
Okay. Do we have contextual photos?
I do not.
I have to say that having the actual photos of the street and whatever is extremely helpful when we do this, because it's hard to get a feel. But I guess my take would be, Kira, that even if the one on one side is a ranch, I mean, there's so much diversity of style in Pleasant Street, and this certainly fits better than the three little ones on a row that got approved on Second, which are just horrible, you know, and don't have any detail. So.
Yeah, and the ranch is not a predominant style in that neighborhood.
Yeah,
no, it's not.
It's the non-contributing in the neighborhood.
I think this is nice. Are those columns going to be brick? What are those columns going to be, Sal? Do you know?
Those are, I believe they're wood.
What?
I believe they're wood columns.
I think she means piers.
The piers underneath.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about underneath the wood part of the column. You think that's wood all the way down?
No, I believe they're stucco.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they're using a brick on it. Oh, no, they're saying brick column.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, they are brick.
I like it.
Yeah, I think it'll be a constructive addition.
Yeah, I think it's nice.
I know we just had critiques on lack of window sills. I'm trying to find that in the report. Do we have sills and proper detailing there on those windows? What kind of windows are they? I'm trying to.
They look like sliders.
What about them being square? Is that consistent with other windows in the neighborhood that look really tiny?
It's not a historic proportion for those first floor windows.
What are the windows? Do we know? I'm just.
Yeah, give me a second. I can pull up. I don't have it in this, but I have it in the backup.
I believe the applicant is on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
This is Andy Coffey. Here on behalf of Eastwood Construction, and here in the room with me is Corey Hodes, who will be the ultimate owner of this dwelling. Here, if you have any questions, I see I was just unmuted, so I thought I'd chime in.
Are you still looking for the window details, Sal?
Yeah, I'm going to pull up the material sheet for you.
Yeah, one of the things that caught my eye in that elevation is that you do not typically do an apron under an exterior window sill. You do that on an interior, but typically do not do that on an exterior.
So Andy, are those windows drawn the way you anticipate the exterior trim to present?
Yes. And I believe Jennifer Langford, the architect who drew this, may be online as a participant.
Don't see her name.
Yeah, but that is the window trim detail that is intended, and it does have a sill and an apron below it.
What kind of windows are they themselves? Are they vinyl, wood? What? Wait, I guess I'm just not seeing any window details. Maybe I'm missing it.
The window detail, I believe, is called out as a note on the plans, and they are a double hung vinyl. And the double hung gives it a little more depth than the typical single hung vinyl.
True.
And they also have the simulated divided lights with the exterior muntins, if I'm using the right term.
No, that's
distinguishable from the grill between glass, which does not have the exterior muntin.
Yeah. Good. But I mean, is the window, Sal, do you have the window detail to answer Michelle's question? I mean, like,
I'm seeing it now, Liz. It's on the plans.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it is. There's silver line, vinyl. Yeah. I'm looking, and it looks like the doors are glass. Am I seeing that right as well?
Yeah.
Is that a on the front, is that a 3/4 glass? Is that what that is? Is it?
Yes.
And that's just a clear glass.
I'm going to try to turn on my screen.
Here, I'll stop sharing, and then you can.
I don't need to share my screen. I just need to share the camera. Hello. So I'm actually on a construction site. That is the door.
Hold on. Are you showing that to us?
Yeah.
I think Sal jumped back on, so now.
He's showing the door on his own video screen.
Oh, no, it didn't. Now I see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a clear glass door.
And is that the same for both of the front doors?
They're both 3/4, but the front porch is 8/0. That porch off the kitchen is 6/8. They're both 3/4 glass.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further board comment? Okay. Any public comment?
Yes, sir. We do have a caller on this item. This is Dottie Fadisi on the line. Ms. Fadisi?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for taking my call. I wanted to say that I do appreciate this design. I just have one quick question about the lot. Is the south end of this lot, is that backing up to the city-owned lot that the GCRA has put forth some plans? That's my question.
Hi, Dottie. Is your question for me? This is Andy.
Well, Andy, you probably know, is it backing up to the GCRA lot, the city-owned lot?
It backs up to an alley, which backs up to that city-owned property. There's an alley in between. It is not an improved alley.
So the alley runs east to west, west to east?
Yes, it does.
Oh, okay. That was my question, but I do like the design.
Thank you. It is not an improved alley though, so you won't see it on the ground. You'll see an old curb cut and apron where it would be, but it is not improved. There's no pavement.
Okay.
And no plans to improve it?
I'll defer to Sal to answer that question on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Thanks, Andy.
I've heard.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion?
A motion to approve petition HP 2055 with staff conditions.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion and a second. Sal?
Member Hill?
Aye.
Member Hawk? Okay. Member Nesberg?
Aye.
Member Hausauer?
Aye.
Member Lucas?
Aye.
Member Massey?
Aye.
Member Hazen?
Aye.
Member Warner?
Aye.
Chair Reeves?
Aye.
Passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy, for bringing more good stuff before us.
Yeah,
My best.
it's going to be pretty.
And thanks for the caller for participating.
Those of you who haven't been on the board all that long, Andy Coffey continuously brings very good work to the board, as long as I've been on the board.
Okay. Thank you.
I think next up is public comment.
Yeah, did we just approve that with the setback change? Because we didn't verbalize that.
Yes, I think the motion was to approve it with staff recommendation.
Okay.
And so, Mr. Chair, you'll see that we've made some changes to the agenda. We've moved public comment for items not on the agenda after the new business, old business, and new business.
Okay.
Just so that the people who are paying for applications are getting their chance to be heard first, and then we'll take anybody who's got anything not related to board business.
Okay, so next up, it would be items not already on the agenda. Public comment?
Chair, we don't have any public waiting to comment.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next, is it board member comment?
Yep, correct.
Comments from the board?
We did have one item. that was put on the agenda at the request of Member Hill. If you saw, I emailed it kind of late in the day today. But I'll let him explain that to you.
Okay.
Hey guys, how you doing? So I come to you all today because I kind of wanted to talk about something that I imagine you guys are probably very well familiar considering what's going on here in the community. Am I able to share my screen, Sal? Or
Yeah, I just turned mine off.
Perfect. Okay. Let me see. All right. Okay, guys. So can you all see my little presentation I put here for you all? So you guys are all aware about what's going on in Seminary Lane, and so
Wait, I'm not. What is it?
okay. So there's about 6.5 acres of land that's owned by it's owned by a nonprofit, I think called the Gainesville Community Housing Association or something like that. And anyway, the property is where the Seminary apartments used to be, which back in the day they were public housing. I think in the year of 2009, the apartments unfortunately were in great disarray to the point where the city was actually spending more money to keep them up, and so they actually motioned to demolish the property in 2009, I want to say. So since 2009, the property sat vacant, and recently the city of Gainesville had actually decided to approve a project for development of student housing on the property. And so I heard of this, got very
I'm sorry to keep interrupting. Where is this?
Northwest 5th Avenue, known as Seminary Lane, and 13th Street.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And so what I wanted to talk to you guys about was that I actually decided to take a stroll down this neighborhood and kind of see what's out there, okay? Because I have talked to some people from that neighborhood just to kind of get an understanding about what's going on. And so one thing they're talking about is that they said that, of course, this is a thing towards gentrification, but they also mentioned that, this is also destroying history. And so I started doing a little bit of research. Just wanted to show you guys my slides that I put together. And I listed here on my PowerPoint, you guys see just some properties that I thought caught my eye. Again, like I said, I'm not an architecture major, but like this is just something that caught my eye. And so I found this property with this address. And according to the property appraiser's office, it looks like it's one of the oldest houses in the neighborhood. And here's the actual house. And so judging from what I've seen, like the original is still there, and then they have the new improved porch in the front. And so I kept looking some more. I found this property, which struck my idea. It was an architectural building that was built in 1932, and here's the building. And so, I wanted to talk kind of about just a little bit about what's going on in this neighborhood, see maybe if there's anything we can do. I wanted to also ask Sal personally if any historic survey has been done in this neighborhood.
Yes, I believe I believe in this neighborhood it's a little older, but we do have the surveys from this neighborhood.
Okay. Question, Sal, do I have to go through like a public records request to get that, or like is there a way for me to obtain that?
So it would be through the Florida Master Site file.
Okay.
We have copies in our office. If you have any particular properties you want to know about, you can give me a list and I can always pull them for you.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can request it from the state.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And so the one thing that's worrying me the most is, like you guys say, again, I have all the other things, all the other houses here and properties that I saw. But based on my closing thoughts is I wanted to discuss with you guys, the board, is that I'm worried that Seminary Lane is going to become Porter's. And I've heard from my colleagues when I used to work for city government about how they talked about how the Innovation District used to be the Porter's neighborhood and how it's no longer the Porter's neighborhood. And so, I'm not going to sit here and say that, we need to absolutely do this, but I think that, I want to start a dialogue and see, is there anything that we can do, in protecting the historical structures in this neighborhood? And so.
Okay, I'll just share a little bit of background in the fact that historically Fifth Avenue and Pleasant Street were kind of all connected together until the railroad was put through, which really bisected the whole neighborhood. And then back in the days when Pleasant Street was put in as a historic neighborhood in the late 80s, there wasn't really any attempt to recognize Fifth Avenue as part of it. Later, I was going to say in the 90s at some point, we talked about exploring the idea of doing Fifth Avenue as a historic district, but at that time, there was not support on the commission to do that. And since then, that's become kind of a prime area for redevelopment, and it just has not been readdressed.
So my question is asked: is there anything that our board can do? You know, can we call the commissioners, or you know, is there anything we can do? Because you know, like I said, I want to see what we can do for this neighborhood, because like I said, I've driven down the neighborhood and there's a lot more than just historical building there. There's culture there, you know, and you know, I mean, that's the heart of Gainesville right there. I think that's at least part of the heart.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Michael, I want to add on. I was at the protest 6 weeks ago for
Okay.
Seminary Lane. There was a Black Lives Matter protest, and we marched all the way down to Seminary Lane. A lot of people of color in Gainesville have direct roots to this, and the promise was the public housing was not kept up, and that when it was gotten rid of, there'd be something else in place rather than student housing, where the people who historically live in that neighborhood won't be able to afford to live there anymore. So that's the huge issue here. And I would definitely throw my support behind whatever you're doing, Michael. And there's definitely more additional people we can talk to who live there, are from that area. And I would really appreciate some of our board input, because this is exactly what we do, historic district.
preservation, yeah, and like I actually went to the neighborhood this weekend when I had some time off, and I cataloged just kind of like some houses that I looked at and like, okay, they seem to, like, you know, predate like the ranch style homes and everything else. And I've started doing my research on the property appraisers just to kind of get a research. And like I said, I've got a nice catalog, but it's not fully done yet. I'm going to keep doing my research, but I want.
Just from one of the newspaper articles, residents were promised by the Gainesville Housing Authority affordable housing would be built on the land. And clearly that's not what's happening. They completely sold out this community.
Yeah. And so that's why I wanted to ask you, is there something that we can do to help this community from the Preservations Board perspective?
Well, the best way, I think, is to hold the line at about 12th Street. Try to, what faces onto 13th, and resist incursion east of 12th Street.
Yeah, because anything west of 12 is that vacant land, and you know, at this point, with what I've heard has happened legislatively, I don't know if we're even going to be able to even save that, you know. But like, is there anything we can save east?
Yeah, one of the issues was that the developers bought it for $8 million, but they can't build unless the permits are approved. So I would happily support our board writing a letter to deny approval of those permits, if that is something we can possibly do.
I would second that motion too, 100%. Because, you know, I will tell you, like, one big issue, and I understand it's election time. One big issue is affordable housing in the Gainesville and Alachua County area. You know, you guys all know, you all live here. I'm not a homeowner in this area. I've heard the housing is very expensive out here. So, you know, like, you know, we need to stop gentrifying these communities, because they are, you know, they already have a hard time as it is. And you know, it's just, I saw this in my hometown, and I left my hometown for a reason, because I saw that, and I don't want to come here and happen to see that again, you know?
Well, don't we have to hold the Gainesville Housing Authority accountable if they were the ones who promised it?
Well, I mean, absolutely, I would, Elizabeth. From what I've heard, the nonprofit that sold the housing to the developer is like, their executive committee is made up of Chief Tony Jones and some people from the Housing Authority. And so I'm like, oh, that's where it's like, you know, I don't want to venture too deep, but like, absolutely. I mean, I would want to hold the Housing Authority if possible. I mean, anybody who is key in this little aspect, I mean, they need to be held responsible, because, you know, this is a public health crisis, if you ask me.
Good question. This area, from what I'm understanding, is only a block or two from the University Heights North. Yes?
Yes, I want to say so.
Block or two.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Would it be more feasible, like if we were going to proceed with a creating it as a district, if that's what the people wanted, because that is one of the easiest ways to get our voice definitely put into that conversation, is trying to get it nominated as a district, or even just some of the very particular structures. Would it be more feasible to do that on its own, or as part of, like, as an extension of University Heights? Or is it it's so much its own character? I haven't driven through that specific part.
Either way, I think kind of achieves the same goal, but you really have to take into account historic structures that are there. We can't really create a historic district of vacant land, which is problematic in areas where we've lost a lot of historic structures.
Right.
I will say that one of the things that we're looking at in our department is not just historic districts, but also right now we have our heritage districts on the books. We're looking at changing that to be neighborhood conservation districts, and changing the land development code to change the process for that. Right now we're looking at porters and maybe doing that with porters, but this may be something we want to talk about for this area as well. And so that's something that we'll definitely be coming to the board with in the near future.
Oh, I will
Sal.
just say that in the near future, I would absolutely go out there and, do all the measurements and
Same
with
here,
anyone who
like,
wants to do it.
and I know, but Sal, I have one question for you. Now, I'm an urban regional planning minor myself at UF, and I actually we just learned a lesson on gentrification, which is funny that I'm talking about this. And they talked about one of the biggest planning issues is how that, like, in the planning processes of neighborhoods, the community isn't really involved. So, I hearing you say that it's music to my ears, and it makes me feel a little bit better about the situation. But I do have to ask, if we discuss this, are people from the community actually going to be able to come and sit down and talk about this? Because we can all sit here and talk about it, but I don't think any of us live in seminary. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's an excellent point. Any kind of preservation, whether it's a historic district or a neighborhood conservation district, it really has to be a grassroots effort. And so we can organize that as a historic preservation board, but really it's the citizens in that neighborhood and the surrounding neighborhoods that really have to be the driving force. And that's really, who commissions listen to are really their constituents, not so much the preservation planner or a historic preservation board. So we would definitely, and that's kind of where we're tweaking the land development code regulation for that, to make sure that that's in place to get that neighborhood feedback.
Yeah, and David Areola was at that protest as well. Local people, organizers were organizing it. And like I said, while we're working on making it historic, I do think that the permits are imminent, and we need to draft a letter. And if it's just Michael, I will happily sign it with you. If the board wants to sign it, great. But definitely, I would like us to have a voice in this.
So what I would recommend is, and one thing I think everybody has to understand with the legal issues of it, is the board can't. If the city's going to review permits, if the permits are approvable, they are going to have to approve them. As a board, my recommendation would be to draft a position statement, if you will, to the commission and express to them what is important about these neighborhoods and what the board would like to see happen in all of these neighborhoods. More than a specific action. Because, like as I said, the board, you're getting into legal issues there where the board really doesn't have purview over that. But I think it's very important that the commission understands the voice of the board, and that the board feels a certain way about these issues.
Also, I wanted to add really quickly, this is Yvette, that the commission will be having a general policy committee on the 13th, where they will be discussing some of these kind of issues concerning gentrification and just equitable development and a moratorium. So a lot of this will be discussed at that meeting on the 13th.
Good. I was just going to also share with the board, historically, back when we talked about it in the 90s, the other big issue there wasn't support from the neighborhood for it. However, nowadays, given the pressure on porters and the most recent minor rezoning that we went through, you see that the community support is there in these neighborhoods now.
Yeah, because I've talked to a few people from that neighborhood, and like everyone I've talked to that yeah, you know, that they believe the history there, it needs to be preserved, and you know, they just want to save their community.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say too, I was a part of those when the form-based code was being approved. That's when we saw members of the communities, like from Porters, come out and say, well, how do we become a district? And at that point, I mean, the messaging was pretty clear. It may be too late. And I think we're because of the delay, so much of the land has been purchased by investors, specifically in the Fifth Avenue neighborhood. I mean, we're seeing, thankfully, Pleasant Street, I think we're seeing some good infill, whereas the zoning in the Fifth Avenue neighborhood allows for higher intensity development. And so a lot of those parcels are now owned by developers. And so, you know, I think Sal brings up lawsuits, things like that. It limits us as to what we can do. You know, and I wonder if there is some option, because you can see some streets do have more structures than others. You know, it's getting to a place though, if something doesn't change quickly, it will be gone. And, Absolutely. You know, I think just going back historically, I was sort of shocked to see that. I didn't realize that if you go into Papa Top on Main Street, there's a great photo of when our railroad used to go down Main Street. And at some point, I'm not sure, maybe 50s, and it's why we see a lot of houses that have been moved in weird places on the opposite sides of 6th Street, because when that railroad was put through the Black community, right through their neighborhood, a lot of those homes were probably demolished or moved in strange ways. And certainly I too remember the conversations about Seminary Lane and that being promised to be affordable housing. So I'm not sure how we got here today. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it really is. So, yeah, especially in the fact that when the city is decreeing Black Lives Matter, you know. So,
Mr.
I'd like
Chairman,
to say something.
Yes.
We do have a call.
Here I am.
Okay, there she is. Melanie.
Okay, can I talk?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So, in terms of finding research on the houses, he was saying he was looking at the property appraisers. That's not going to help a lot. What you really do need to see is the master site files. We did the survey in 1979 of that neighborhood, and they should be in the preservation office. If not, you can go to the state, but they should still be they should be in the file cabinets here. Are they?
They are.
The master site files?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's where you would go to see the pictures and the descriptions of the houses and the more accurate dates of construction, I hope, because the property appraiser was not always correct. And if anybody read the Sunday paper, and it doesn't sound like anyone did, there was a big article, opinion piece by Jackie Davis talking about Gail Johnson's proposed moratorium on large student apartment complexes, basically meaning Seminary Lane. Yeah. I hope some of you read that. And she is asking for Gail is asking for letters of support when they discuss it on August 13th. The only thing is, as a city preservation board appointed by the city, I don't think you have the authority to write a letter of support to them. But as was mentioned, you can have some kind of points of concern that you want to bring up to them. But she is asking for neighborhoods to write letters of support, and most have. The Duck Pond neighborhood's voting on theirs tomorrow night, the board is, and she's already got letters from Pleasant Street and Spring Hill and Porters and things like that. But that is going to be discussed on August 13th at the City Commission meeting then. And as people were mentioning, there was a march about it. And on the same day, poorly scheduled, was a magistrate was listening to comments on that. So you can make your choice on commenting on the magistrate or going on a march, but there's been a lot of involvement in trying to prevent large-scale student apartment complexes from intruding into normally predominantly Black historic districts.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if anybody's read the paper or already knew about all that.
I myself read it. I actually saw that article you're exactly talking about.
Okay. So the ball is rolling trying to stop these large-scale student apartment complexes. And also in terms of the neighbors, some neighbors are feeling insecure about it, certainly not wanting a high-rise, large student apartment complex, but some of them want to sell out and make some money on their property. So they like the property being sold for $8 million because that makes their properties worth more. So it's kind of a mixed bag there, with some people looking forward to selling their properties to developers and others not feeling really good about this giant scale student apartment complex coming into their neighborhood.
And sure, we'll happily listen to both voices, but we as a historic board could definitely put out our position, or as Sal said, something that is akin to it.
Right, you can't really go, you can only do the job you're supposed to do, and I don't think you can actually write a letter of support, but you could write something stating the points that are of concern.
No, actually, the board has taken a position on many occasions and written letters of support.
Okay, but against the city's own, I think the property is zoned to do it because the original Seminary Lane apartment complex was duplexes and quadruplexes from what I can remember. So it was a higher density than the rest of the neighborhood. And I personally didn't see anything wrong with it. I saw maybe some of the properties had some problems, but they were fixable. And I didn't see any reason to demolish it. And people were happy to live there. But anyhow, it got demolished. And in terms of Tony Jones being on the board, he is one member. The chair, as far as I know, is still Rosa B. Williams, who is a force to be reckoned with. And it's a few others. It's a very small board. But they've made the decision, and apparently the sale's gone through to sell it. So that's water under the bridge.
Well, sale might be, but what gets approved and what doesn't remains to be seen.
And I can't see your pictures anymore. I can just see the PowerPoint closing thoughts. When somebody mentioned, let's do something with our pictures, all of a sudden that disappeared. I can't not see who's who or who's talking anymore. It's just a little black rectangle up in the corner. Can you all see each other?
Yeah, you can make that bigger.
Zoom? Yeah, I don't see you anymore. I used to see you, now I can't. Okay, well, that's all I had to say. I just wanted to let everybody know the master site files, we did them in 1979, and they should still be in the filing cabinets.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Melanie.
available to the public. Okay.
So I guess I gotta call the Department of State to get those files, right?
If you get me a list, I have access. I can pull them all for you and get you the digital copies.
Okay. Yeah, if it's not too much to ask.
Yeah,
you know?
just get me a spreadsheet or something of the addresses you're interested in.
Okay. All right. Yeah, like I said, I've got them. I'll transfer them to like a list and I'll get it to you guys. But
okay.
Well, guys, I mean, thank you all for listening. Like I said, I don't know what you all think what we should do, but I mean, I don't know if you guys want to have a vote on doing something or not. I mean, I've never done something like this before.
We should definitely have a united front against or about this.
I'll sign whatever you put together, but I'm in New Hampshire, so I have to do it.
Yeah, so Sal or Michael, whoever wants to draft something.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to kind of do that offline maybe and draft something and then
email
it to everyone. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, if they're having something 10 days from now, is that too soon?
Plenty of time.
If we email it and we can just email and get approval?
I was gonna say, yeah, if somebody wants to come up with a draft, I can send it to me. I can email it out to everybody for comments, and then you can get a final version.
Okay.
Sounds
If
good.
you guys want, I'll work on the draft if that's okay
Sounds
with
great,
you guys.
Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right, guys. I
I-
appreciate
I'd be happy to back you up, Michael, for second eyes.
problem. Thank you guys so much. Like I said when if I finish it, like anything you guys say, hey, we can't say this, so maybe it violates law or something. Please critique me. Because if there's like 5 or 10 people looking at this thing, that's good. It just means it's going to be a lot better.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Sal?
I have a quick question and kind of relation to that. As a board, I know there are limitations on how many of us can group together and talk about certain things in public due to sunshine laws. How would we as a group, if we wanted even, to go about going out as a group and meeting with, citizens, or can we just try to tell them to come to our meetings?
Yeah, so we can hold a special workshop and post it, and you can get the word out there that, this is where we'll be discussing it, and then they can call in or join as participants.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Well, generally, unless it's changed, you've got about a 2-week or 10-day or 2-week notification. But individuals can go do whatever they want to do
Individually, yeah. No two can go together. So if you want to go out individually and talk to people, you're free to do that. You can't represent the board. You can say that you're on the board, but you can't represent the board.
What I thought, just making sure. Thank you.
Okay, any other comment?
I have another topic, not as culturally relevant, but I would like to discuss where the line is drawn for closing in porches. I had spoke to you in a message I left, Sal, about the house up the street. They closed in a porch, and your response was that it wasn't a contributing accessory structure, but I believe the porch was added on sometime in the 40s. And so at what point do we not consider a porch to be relevant and where it should be coming across the board? Because I don't think putting hardy board on a porch that was closed in the 40s is what the board would appreciate.
So that's a great question. And that's one of the things I definitely want to talk with the board about, is approvals and where approvals go. Citizens have a lot of hard time. Staff has had a hard time determining kind of where things go. It's not as clear as it should be. One of the things I'm recommending that I'm going to put forward to you guys in the future is an approval matrix, which is what a lot of cities use. And it basically says all these items, these go before the board. These items, they go to staff. We don't have anything like that currently. So the case that we're talking about with the porch, it's a historic property that has a non-contributing porch. The applicant applied and we reviewed it at staff level. It's got its windows, so it technically meets the requirement to have that openness. The bottom of it should be hardy board that kind of simulates the Pecky cypress off the front of the house in width and design. But that's a good question. The porch, it's not original to the house, but it's still important to the story of the house and that evolution of the house. So I do think that's a really good question. Where do we draw that line?
I don't think that porch was added too much later than the house was built. It's the materials that are in that porch and the other closed-in room are very consistent with the 30s and 40s. So changing those out with the windows that are put in are not consistent with the current architecture. Those windows don't match any other windows in the house that they're putting in. And the hardy board is just not a material that I think we would approve.
So the hardy board was approved, and I kind of go through my thinking with it with you guys, is that we don't want that to match the house in exactly in materials. We do want it to be compatible as much as possible, but we definitely want you to be able to tell that it was a porch that was infilled later on. So that's where the thinking with that did come from.
Well, this is confusing me. This has come up now like three times.
I don't agree.
With this not matching thing. And I get not matching, but I agree with Danielle. I mean, hardy board, we just went through this on that house in the Pleasant Street district last month, where we wouldn't allow her to take off her novelty siding and put hardy board up. I mean, I get that it's easy and cheap and you don't have to paint it as often, but why wouldn't you want that porch to have a style that is compatible with the original structure?
Right. So I can take my texture 111 off of my sunroom and put hardy board up. Is basically what you're saying, and I just don't think that's appropriate. My porch was closed in 1960. The house was built in 1937, and hardy board is just not what I would expect someone to approve on my house. And that house down the street is of similar age and construction. So I just don't agree with that line, and I definitely would love to have some, hard set line put in there of where the staff approvals, suffice.
And I think that's exactly why Sal is proposing that matrix. I think that this discussion definitely needs to be had between the board and staff, so that we know, for certain, like what it is that's approvable, or what's allowed, what staff can approve. So I definitely think it's important that we have this discussion.
Also, that it be in writing, because one thing that you'll see from city to city, and from even when board members change, it changes what the board is looking for. And if you have a policy and position written down on what it is the board is looking for, it not only helps staff and the board, but it also helps citizens know what to expect when they're doing their project.
I agree. I think that's a very good thing to have, and that kind of dovetails. I'm going to do this really quickly because I know everybody wants to go home, and I'm getting because I'm outside. But the fence issue, and I know I sent you a couple emails, Sal, about that fence on 7th Street and 3rd Avenue. It's going around the pool. I didn't get a response to know we don't know what that fence looks like. And we had asked before you came on board that staff approve fences, because there were so many fences that were staff approved.
No, that staff not approve fences.
That staff not approved, that we approve, because staff had approved so many that we would not have approved. Sorry, that sounded convoluted, but everybody else knows what I'm trying to say.
Get it, yeah.
We got it.
So by you, what does it look like? Damn it! What does the fence look like?
I'm going to tell you this. So I worked in preservation previously in another city, and front yard fences, we didn't even allow those. So again, going back to the discussion, I would really like to have a discussion about a lot of these things so that we're clear on what's approvable and what's not. Because again, typically front yard fences, to me, I'm just very shocked that we allow front yard fences at all. So.
But still, I want an answer. Please tell me what that goddamn fence looks like.
I will send it out tonight. I will send it out to all of you. And I apologize for not sending it sooner. The issue with that is, so we can't really tell citizens that our guidelines say this is approvable, but we're going to make you go to the board anyway. So we can't. Now the board has the right to change what's approvable kind of in a matrix, but we can't just change item by item what goes to the board and what doesn't, just because that's not fair to the citizens who are trying to plan the projects.
A lot of fences have been approved that were not in the guidelines.
Yeah, I get that.
And that's where we are. And apparently that fence is a 6-foot fence that you approved, and part of it runs across the front of the property. So was my concern.
Is that considered the backyard even though it's on the sidewalk?
I don't know.
I'll have to take a look at the property. I'll send it to everybody so you can all take a look at that particular.
But as soon as you get that matrix, that would be a lovely thing, because it would clear up a lot of confusion.
Do you have a timeline on that, Sal?
I can send, by the end of the week, I can have something for you guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then I'd want you guys to kind of comment on the individual items where you think each of those should fall, and then we can come back together as a group and talk about it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody have any other board business?
No, other than what's going on with 609 Northeast 6th. What do we do with that house?
So that's coming up. Let me run through. I got a couple of things I just want to run by you guys.
Okay.
So new forms and applications, as I think you've seen the new application. If anybody has any suggestions or anything to change, let me know. We can tweak it.
If I may, I haven't, I don't know, I guess I haven't seen the new application. I would just like to do away with the requirement for notary and be able to move to third-party verified signature.
So the new application doesn't require notary. It only requires notary if you're doing the agent authorization. It's the only page now that requires notary.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. So if you have an agent, such as an architect or a constructor,
Yeah.
you still have to have it notarized?
Yeah. And we may change that. That's something that we do with all the boards. That's that same agent authorization form. We've taken it off of the application itself, though. But we can continue to look at ways to improve that. And it is a fillable PDF, so if you have a way to PDF verify, you can do that. But you still need that if you're doing the agent authorization. The other things I wanted to get was the matrix, but also a really detailed checklist. One of the things that I'm noticing when I'm seeing these applications come through is we are seeing a wide range of quality of plan sets that are coming through. Some of them call out everything, answer all the questions. Others are really vague and don't really answer all the questions. I think we need to do a better job at really setting our expectation of what we're looking for from applicants. So I've had a bunch of people push back on me and say, well, this is what we've always submitted, and it's always been good enough. And, it's hard to make a decision sometimes with some of these things. So I really want to work on that too. So I don't know if I'll get that done this week, but I will try getting that to you guys to make some comments on.
I would definitely like to see some historically relevant details on the plans so that it's not left to guess.
Yeah, and if we approve something that is just very general, you could go out and build anything and justify it and say, well, that's what they approved.
Right.
The way I've always worked is that the plan set that comes before the board should be the plan set that the building department sees in the end. Because when I go out and look at it later, I'm going to be checking, and when they submit their building permit, I'm going to be checking to make sure that it's the same thing that got approved through the board. And I have a lot of changes that are happening midway through with that, which leads to another question. I did have an applicant asking, so if we have changes, when do we have to go back to the board? And again, all cities and all boards kind of handle this differently. Where I worked before, it was kind of called out. The board said, here are the 6 items that staff, if they get changed, staff can look at and approve. Everything else, if it's a board decision, it comes back to the board. And part of the importance of that is that you've, at the first meeting, you've publicly noticed it and people have had input into it. And if it gets changed by staff in a dramatic way and gets built without it coming back to the board, the public hasn't had a chance to see those changes. So I'd like to see kind of something in writing, what the board would like to approve as staff acceptable changes to board approved plans. And we can talk about that a little more as we go on. So that's it for forms and applications. I did want to tell you that as the city, we have supported and applied for a Department of Historic Resources small matching grant for the rehabilitation and adaptive use plan for Mount Carmel Church. So that the university is doing, and we'll know later this year whether we got that. It's a $50,000 grant for that plan.
But they're not going to turn the church into student housing?
No, they are not. We're trying to find an adaptive use that will keep it a church and will also be a benefit to the community. while
As I
preserving the building.
understand, this grant was specifically for the planning and
Yes.
aspect of this?
Yep. So this is not the actual rehabilitation. This is for that plan.
Okay. Cool.
Great
Thank you.
point. Yep. We've talked a little bit about the conservation districts. That's something our office is working on language for right now, changing what we currently have as heritage districts and changing them to be neighborhood conservation districts. And once we have more on that, I'll share that with you. Another thing we've been working on in the office is in September, the Florida Main Street program application is due. And we've looked at applying, but the turnaround time on that is so short right now that we've decided we're not going to apply for it. I've been working with the state Main Street coordinator, and she's very encouraging that we actually do put in an application. So we are going to work on that all throughout this year. And next September, we are going to apply for downtown for a Gainesville Main Street.
Connie's been waiting on us to put this in for like 3 years now.
I know.
I talked to you about it 3 years ago.
If any board member doesn't know, there is a massive amount of paperwork involved in that.
Can't even imagine.
There
And
is.
Sal, I actually have that application and all the previous surveys, and I know I've talked to the board about this before. I've been updating the surveys. This has kind of taken a backseat in the past couple months because I've been working on my dissertation, but I've been updating all the 90s surveys and the early 2000s surveys and putting that into the application.
Beautiful. So as we get closer, if we want to do a subcommittee and you want to head the subcommittee of the board, I don't know if you have time for that, but I mean, we've got.
Oh, thank you.
We've got a year now. So I'm glad you got it started already. I mean, that's a huge help because it is a lot of research and a lot of paperwork into that. But it's a great program. I think our downtown would benefit immensely from it. We do have to, one of the sticking points was, we have to get into the city budget, our support, our 3-year support, and budget for the executive director, which I don't think people really realized that we have to budget for an executive director. But we will get that into an upcoming budget.
Awesome.
So lastly, the Northeast 6th Street property. So you guys probably know the history of that much better than I do. I was very taken when I got asked about it, when I went out there and looked at it and realized that it's one of the 5 matching houses and there's no historic material left on it. But so there's a couple of questions. A, what can we do about a house that's half constructed and sitting there? And I have talked with the building department and the code enforcement department, and unfortunately they're not in, well, fortunately for them, but unfortunately for us to spur some movements there, they're not in violation of anything because the house is secured. They don't have any active building permits and they don't have any active certificate of appropriateness. So anything that's going to happen going forward on that property is going to need both of those things. It's going to have to come back to the board for any work to continue on it, and it's also going to have to reapply for building permits. So we'll see what happens with it that way. The other question is, we're still calling this a contributing structure, and we've really let them take everything off. I understand it was in really bad condition, but I just wanted to throw that out there that we are still calling this a contributing structure, and really there's no historic fabric left on that building.
But we didn't tell them they could take all that off. They were only supposed to take off a little side of the porch that wasn't original to the structure. So we didn't give them permission to dismantle the whole house.
So yeah, I pulled the application, and so from the notes I got, it just, I think, was a little vague about what was approved. It kind of said, well, they'll check back with us as they get through in construction. And then the trail kind of went dead. I didn't see any other notes in there that said what happens in that process.
See,
so you guys.
One of my concerns is that I know Atlantic Design Build is not involved with it now. That house, and they have to next door to it.
One more.
There's a mute button, Bill.
They also did my neighbor's house in between my house and that house, and they took down both her chimneys. So they have a tendency to go in and do this shit, and then it's done. So this is my concern about them going in and doing Andy and Sarah's house, because I don't know.
We've seen a lot of times where we ask them to come back with more information, and they come back to staff, but we never see it.
Right.
Okay. And that's where I think board approved applications should come back to the board, unless there have been times where I've had my board say, okay, well, we understand that you might need to change this. If it's just this item, that's the condition of your COA, is that if you're changing that item, then staff can approve it. Everything else comes back to the board.
Right.
Is Atlantic Design the only company that worked on that property, or did another company come in the middle?
No,
They're
no.
responsible for deconstructing the whole thing.
No, they aren't. Well, I mean, suffice it to say that there are contractors out there whose objectives are not consistent with ours.
Yeah. But in the meanwhile, there sits this house. So basically what you're saying, Sal, is that house can sit like that for the next 10 years? As long as they mow the grass?
I'm going to keep asking and keep working on it. But where it stands right now, the answers I've gotten are there's nothing any city department can do about it, because they're not violating anything. They're not violating a permit or a COA or anything.
Wow.
So there's no, I just want to be clear, because usually when you have a project that's mid-construction, right, because they've poured the slab, it's partial construction, there's no obligation to complete that construction?
I believe they have to get it approved to get it to a certain point to be okay with the building department. And I think they've done that and then just abandoned the project. And so those permits have lapsed, and it just sits.
Do we know what happened to the owner? I mean, are they coming back?
We're trying to research and get the owner's phone number so we can just give them a call and talk to them about it and see what the plan is. You know, they may have a plan to finish it tomorrow and reapply for permits and a new COA, but, you know, or they may not. We just don't know. And unfortunately, I think I looked it up on the property appraiser. Their mailing address is that house. So, and clearly they're not getting mail there. So.
And I think I have his phone number.
Give him a call, Liz.
Well, don't email it to me. Don't give it out over
just
Zoom.
I was going to get his phone number from a text and give it to you, but I can't find it.
Say it out loud.
Yeah, please don't give it to me over a Zoom meeting.
We are being recorded.
And I have his phone number somewhere, because I was going to call about the bricks in his backyard, and I got his number from another neighbor, but now I've got to find the text. I'll see if I can find it.
Okay, that'd be great.
I just don't.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you can't do anything through the building department or because of a COA, is there any remedy through code enforcement to apply pressure to them?
They're not in violation unless the grass starts growing too tall or the building starts falling apart in some way where it's violating a code, then they can step in and do something. But currently, it's not.
Is the roof now closed? Because the last time I went by there, the roof was still open. It's open to the elements.
There's no roof in
Is it? So that might be.
Oh, there's no roof on it.
I mean, I think they recently put in some doors and windows, but it's still open.
Doors. They put a front door on, I think, after probably they were contacted the first time, and they mowed the grass, half the grass, and they put a front door in, but the back is still wide open.
Mm-hmm. I'll bring it up with the building department again, and we'll see what answers we can get.
I wonder if they're going for the demolition, neglect route, because there's water that's going right into that building.
Mm-hmm.
So wait, so are you basically saying because it's no longer a contributing structure because it doesn't have anything historic left on it, that if they came back again with the COA, they could potentially say, we want to tear this down, or we don't want to make it look historic?
They can ask for any, I mean, the citizen has a right to ask for anything, but the board has to take into account, you know, what you've got in front of you. So I can't see the board saying you can tear down the rest of the house.
No.
No.
Yeah, and two, they're still in a historic district, so it's not like they can do whatever they want here.
Yeah.
And that was certainly a historic structure with lots of historic fabric. So the fact that it was demoed, it was.
They were only supposed to take the like 4x4 section of the front porch off that wasn't original. Other than that, that front porch wasn't supposed to be touched.
So moving forward, would they have to come back before us, or are they still running off of that COA?
COAs, it's expired. So they have to come back for anything that happens on that house now going forward. They have to come back.
Yep.
Is there a way to let people know that, you know, if they have this plan to renovate an old house and then they start taking off layers and they realize that it's rotten underneath, that they can't just make their own decisions on things and say, let's tear the whole thing down? Like, I don't think maybe that's just not clear enough for people or for these construction companies. Like, you'd think Atlantic Design would know that that's really not the way to go.
Funny you should ask that, because I have added phrasing to the COA and also in the certification that I make everybody sign on their application that says we understand that all changes will come back to the board for approval, and that any changes that aren't approved that happen are going to get a penalty and have to come back to the board anyway, and could result in them being removed.
Good.
So
Is that
now that's on there legally, you know, they sign it, but really help getting that attitude out there and that misconception that, you know, people can do whatever they want. That's really where we need to be focusing, is to make people understand that that's not gonna fly. That's not what the community wants. That's not what the board wants. And we've seen it happen too often.
Should it also have a statement in there to further explain unforeseen changes due to deterioration of materials that was unexpected? Like, should it, how specific can it be? Because
we can tweak it. Yeah. If you want to take a look at that section of the application, and if you have any suggestion or even another line in there that says something else like that, yeah, I'm definitely open to suggestions.
Yeah, because they went in, I'm trying to remember the course of events. They took all the siding off. They took the chimneys out. I mean, none of those, I can't believe that you guys would have approved them taking the chimneys off.
they were only supposed to take off the 4x4 section of the front porch that was not original to the building, and it was supposed to remain identical to the other 5 houses.
Yeah. Well, Teresa's house isn't identical anymore either, because they took her chimneys out when she remodeled, both of them. Or one of them, I take it back, one. So they in my estimation, I don't trust them to do what we approved to do. I don't know.
Well, so guys, 4-hour meeting.
There you go. All right.
For real.
I got
it covered here tonight.
We did.
I had a quick question for everyone.
As fun as this is, you know, I'm gonna have to recharge the computer if I don't go. So
yeah.
Did you guys all? Did anyone attend the Florida Main Street / Florida Trust program?
No, I heard about it though.
I attended parts of it.
You did?
Yeah.
No, I'm in New Hampshire, living in a travel trailer that's 17 feet long.
It was
It's
all
virtual.
online. It was virtual.
Oh, it was virtual. I didn't know. I could have done it.
The national conference is also virtual this year in October, but they had some very good points that if I know you, Sal, you said you saw them, but for everyone else, they had some very good points about the Main Street program and how it actually functions in real life. And if anyone wanted to look at them, all of the PowerPoint slides and Zoom presentations are available for the public on the Florida Trust website and the Main Street Preservation website as well.
I'll send you all a link to that, because it is really worthwhile and just interesting to see.
Good.
Some great speakers.
Thank you.
All right. And we interest anyone when making a motion to adjourn?
My gosh, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it right now.
Thank you all for a very good discussion.
All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Bye.